Chapter 1. The dream always began the same way, with blood and moonlight. Sera Nightshade jolted awake, her heart hammering against her ribs as the vision dissolved into the darkness of her bedroom. Her fingertips tingled with residual heat, and when she pressed them to her temples she could still see it. A woman with silver eyes standing before a burning castle, her hand outstretched, a crescent moon blazing on her palm. Find what was lost. Reclaim what was stolen. You're the last. The voice echoed in Sera's mind, ancient and urgent, as it had every night for the past week. She threw off her covers and stumbled to the bathroom, splashing cold water on her face. When she looked up into the mirror she froze. There, just below her left collarbone, was a mark that hadn't existed when she'd gone to bed. A silver crescent moon, intricate and luminous, seemed to pulse with its own inner light against her skin. "No," she whispered, touching it with trembling fingers. "This isn't possible." But even as denial formed on her lips, something deeper, something ancient and primal, stirred within her. Recognition. The mark burned hotter, and suddenly she could smell pine forests she'd never walked through, hear the howl of wolves she'd never met, feel the weight of a crown she'd never worn. Sera's phone buzzed on the nightstand. A known number. Her thumb hovered over the decline button, but that same instinct, that strange new awareness, made her answer. "Miss Nightshade." The voice was male, deep, and carried an authority that made her spine straighten involuntarily. "The mark has appeared. You need to come home." "Who is this? How did you?" "My name is Kieran Ashborne, Alpha of the Northern Territories. And you, Sera Nightshade, are the last living heir of the Lunar dynasty, a bloodline we believed extinct for 3 centuries. The room spun. Sera gripped the edge of the sink. "That's insane. I'm a librarian. I'm nobody. You're the key to everything." His voice softened, almost gentle. "The prophecy has begun. And with that mark now visible, every alpha in the territories will know what you are. Some will want to protect you. Others will want to claim you. And some—" He paused. "Some will want you dead. This is crazy. I'm hanging up." "Look at your left wrist." Against her better judgment, Sera did. Another mark was appearing as she watched, this one a delicate chain of silver runes circling her wrist like a bracelet. "The binding of ancients," Kieran said quietly. "It appears when the true heir comes of age. It means your powers are awakening, Sera. And it means you're in danger. I can protect you, but you have to trust me." "Why should I trust you?" "Because 300 years ago my ancestor swore a blood oath to yours. The Ashborne line has guarded the secrets of the Lunar dynasty for centuries, waiting for this moment. Waiting for you." Sera's legs gave out. She slid down to sit on the cold tile floor, staring at the glowing marks on her skin. Everything she thought she knew about herself, her quiet life, her simple existence, was crumbling. "There's a memorial box," she heard herself say. "My grandmother left it to me when she died. She said never to open it until I understood who I really was. Open it now." With the phone pressed to her ear, Sera walked to her bedroom closet and pulled down the ancient wooden box from the top shelf. Her grandmother's final words whispered through her memory, "When the moon calls, you must answer." The lock clicked open at her touch. It had never done that before. Inside lay a leather-bound journal, a silver pendant shaped like a crescent moon, and a folded piece of parchment that looked impossibly old. "What do you see?" Kieran asked. Sera unfolded the parchment with shaking hands. The text was written in flowing script, but somehow she could read it, as if the language was waking up in her mind, ancient knowledge flooding through her veins. She read aloud, "When the last daughter wakes beneath the hunter's moon, when silver marks the chosen skin, the Lunar dynasty shall rise again. 2 souls, 2 houses bound by fate, the guardian and the heir must unite, or all pacts fall to endless night." Silence stretched between them. "That's the prophecy of reunion," Kieran finally said, his voice rough. "It's been passed down through my family for generations. Sera, I need you to listen very carefully. Can you get to the old redwood forest preserved by dawn? That's 3 hours away. There are others already searching for you. I can smell them on the wind. They'll track your bloodline signature now that your mark has activated. You need to move. Now." As if summoning his words into reality, a howl split the night outside her apartment window. Then another. And another. The chorus rose, primal and hunting, and Sera's newly awakened instinct screamed danger. "They've found you," Kieran growled. "Get out. Don't take anything but that box. Run, Sera. I'm coming for you. I don't even know you." "You will. We're bound by blood and prophecy. Just run. I'll find you." I promise. The line went dead as glass shattered in her living room. Sera grabbed the box, shoved her feet into sneakers and bolted for her bedroom window. She lived on the second floor, but as she climbed onto the fire escape, something extraordinary happened. Her body moved with supernatural grace. She leaped down to the alley below, a drop that should have broken her ankles, and landed in a crouch, perfectly balanced. Power sang through her muscles. Her senses sharpened until she could hear individual heartbeats in the building, smell the distinct scent of the wolves crashing through her apartment door. She ran. The city blurred around her as speed she'd never possessed carried her through back streets and shadows. Behind her, the howls grew closer. She could feel them, predators on her trail, their intentions dark and hungry. But she could also feel something else, something pulling her north like an invisible thread. Come to me, a voice whispered through her mind, Kieran's voice though she didn't understand how. Follow the bond. I've got you. Sera's grandmother had died clutching that wooden box, whispering words Sera hadn't understood. The dynasty sleeps, but it never dies. Your blood carries centuries, child. When the time comes, remember, you are not prey. You are the storm they should have feared. Now, racing through the darkness with wolves at her heels and impossible power thrumming through her veins, Sera finally understood. She wasn't running away from her destiny. She was running toward it. And somewhere in the night, an alpha waited, a guardian bound to her by oaths older than time, a man whose own bloodline carried secrets that would change everything she thought she knew about her world. The Lunar dynasty had returned. And with it, the prophecy that would either save them all or destroy everything. Chapter 2. Sera's lungs burned as she crashed through the tree line into redwood forest. The city lights faded behind her, swallowed by ancient woods that seemed to recognize her presence. Branches bent away from her path. Roots shifted beneath her feet, guiding rather than tripping. The forest itself was welcoming her home. Behind her, the pursuing wolves hesitated at the forest's edge. She could feel their confusion, their sudden fear. They wouldn't follow her here. Not into these sacred lands. Smart choice, a voice rumbled from the shadows ahead. Sera spun, instinctively dropping into a defensive crouch she'd never learned. A man stepped into a shaft of moonlight and her breath caught. Kieran Ashborne was massive, easily 6.5 feet of pure muscle, with shoulders that seemed carved from stone. His hair was dark as midnight, falling just past his collar, and his eyes were molten gold, burning with an intensity that made her knees weak. He wore simple dark clothes that did nothing to hide his predatory grace, and when he moved closer, every instinct in her body screamed both danger and belonging. You made it, he said, his voice softer than it had been on the phone. I wasn't sure you would. I didn't have much choice. Sera straightened, refusing to show weakness despite her trembling legs. Who were they? Hunters from the Blackthorn clan. They've been waiting for centuries for the lunar heir to emerge. Your bloodline threatens their claim to supremacy. Kieran's jaw tightened. They would have killed you or worse, forced a blood bond to steal your power. My power? Sera looked at her glowing marks. I don't understand any of this. Yesterday I was cataloging medieval manuscripts. Today I'm being hunted by werewolves and apparently I'm some kind of lost princess. Not just any princess. Kieran closed the distance between them, his presence overwhelming. You're the last of the Lunar dynasty, the most powerful bloodline ever to walk these territories. Your ancestors didn't just rule, they shaped the very essence of what we are. They could command the moon itself, bend the change to their will, heal wounds that should have been fatal, and see threads of fate before they were woven. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and touched the crescent mark below her collarbone. The contact sent electricity racing through her body. The mark flared brighter, and suddenly Sera could see, truly see, the man before her. Images flooded her mind. Kieran as a boy, kneeling before an ancient altar, swearing an oath in blood. Kieran training with brutal intensity, preparing for a destiny he'd carried his entire life. Kieran standing vigil over a tomb marked with the same crescent moon now branded on her skin. You've been waiting for me, she whispered. My whole life. His golden eyes held hers. Every Ashborne firstborn is raised with the knowledge of the prophecy. We're trained as guardians from childhood, taught that our purpose is singular, to protect the lunar heir when she finally awakens. My father guarded the empty throne. His father before him. For 12 generations we've waited. That's insane. Why would anyone do that? Kieran's hand fell away and she immediately missed his warmth. Because 300 years ago your ancestor, Queen Sera Nightshade, saved my ancestor's life. Alpha Kieran Ashborne was betrayed by the very packs he'd trusted, left to die in the Crimson Wars. Ravenna found him, used her power to pull him back from death's door, and in doing so, bound our bloodlines together. Theron swore that his line would forever serve hers, that when the dynasty fell, the Ashbournes would guard its secrets until the true heir returned. The dynasty fell? Sera clutched the wooden box tighter. What happened? Pain flickered across Kieran's face. Betrayal. Jealousy. Fear. Your family was too powerful, and the other royal houses grew afraid of what that power could mean. They formed a coalition, 5 houses united against one. They attacked during the Lunar festival, when your family's power was at its peak but their guard was down. It was a massacre. Sera's chest tightened. She could feel the echo of that ancient pain, as if the memory lived in her very DNA. They killed them all? Almost. Queen Ravenna used the last of her power to hide the surviving children, scattering them across the human world with their memories locked, their marks suppressed. She died holding back the assassins long enough for them to escape. Kieran's voice roughened. She saved the bloodline but at a cost. Without the Lunar dynasty to maintain the balance, the packs descended into chaos. Centuries of war, betrayal, and instability. We've been fighting ever since. And you think I can fix that? Sera laughed bitterly. I can't even control whatever this is. She gestured at her glowing marks. How am I supposed to restore a dynasty? You're not supposed to do it alone. Kieran stepped closer again, his presence magnetic. That's what the prophecy means. 2 souls, 2 houses bound by fate. The guardian and the heir must unite. We're stronger together, Sera. Your power and my oath. Your bloodline and my protection. Unite how? The air between them crackled with tension. Kieran's eyes darkened and Sera felt the pull, that invisible thread that had drawn her through the forest. It was stronger now, humming with possibility and danger. The blood bond, he said quietly. When a guardian and heir join their lines, their powers amplify. You would gain my strength, my pack's loyalty, my knowledge of our world. I would gain access to your abilities, the right to stand at your side as you reclaim your throne. Throne? I don't want a throne. But you have one whether you want it or not. Kieran's jaw set stubbornly. The moment that mark appeared, you became a target. Every alpha who wants power will come for you. Every house that fears what you represent will try to eliminate you. And the prophecy says that if we don't unite, if the dynasty isn't restored, all packs fall to endless night. I've spent my entire life preparing to prevent that darkness. Sera's mind reeled. 24 hours ago, her biggest concern was getting her thesis approved. Now she stood in an enchanted forest with a werewolf alpha telling her she had to save the world. I need to think, she managed. We don't have time. Kieran pulled out his phone, showing her a screen filled with messages. Every pack in the territories knows by now. The lunar mark has been spotted. They're gathering, some to swear loyalty, others to challenge your claim. The Spring Council meets in 3 days. If you're not there to stake your position, they'll declare the dynasty extinct and the throne open for anyone to take. It'll be civil war. 3 days. Sera's voice rose. You expect me to go from librarian to werewolf queen in 3 days? I expect you to survive. Kieran's hand cupped her cheek, the gesture surprisingly tender for such a dangerous man. And I expect to keep the oath my ancestor made to yours. I'm not asking you to trust our world, Sera. I'm asking you to trust me. Let me teach you. Let me show you who you really are. The marks on her skin pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. Sera could feel the power coiling inside her, ancient and vast, waiting for her to claim it. She could also feel Kieran, his absolute certainty, his unwavering dedication, his desperate hope that she would be everything the prophecy promised. She looked down at her grandmother's box and pulled out the journal. The first page, written in that same flowing script she could now read, held a single message. My dearest granddaughter, if you're reading this, the awakening has begun. Do not fear what you are. Do not run from your destiny. The Nightshade Queens have always been warriors, but we've also always been wise enough to recognize true allies. The Ashborne line has never broken faith. Trust the Guardian. He was born for you as you were born for this moment. The dynasty sleeps, but it never dies. Wake it up, my darling. Make them remember why they should have feared us. With all my love, Grandmother Elena. Tears blurred Sera's vision. Her grandmother had known. Had carried this secret her entire life, waiting for the right moment to pass it on. The Spring Council, Sera said, her voice steadier. What happens there? Kieran's eyes blazed with approval. You present yourself to the assembled packs. You prove your lineage. You stake your claim to the lunar throne and the territories that belong to your family. And you face challenges from anyone who dares to question your right. Challenges? Trials? Tests of power, wisdom, and worthiness. Some will be ceremonial. Others. He hesitated. Others will be combat. I don't know how to fight. You do. Kieran's smile was fierce. It's in your blood. I can feel your power, Sera. It's raw, untrained, but it's there. Give me 3 days. Let me unlock what's already inside you. Let me be what I was born to be, your shield, your sword, your guardian. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Somewhere in the distance, a wolf howled, a long, mournful sound that spoke of loyalty and longing. Sera made her decision. Teach me, she said. Show me how to be what they need me to be. Kieran's relief was palpable. He pulled a silver pendant from his pocket, a crescent moon that matched her mark, hanging from a delicate chain. This belonged to Queen Ravenna. My ancestor kept it safe, passed it down through every generation. It's been waiting for you. When he fastened it around her neck, power exploded through Sera's body. The world sharpened. She could suddenly sense every living thing in the forest, every bird, every deer, every wolf. She could feel the moon above, full and heavy, calling to something primal inside her. And she could feel Kieran, his presence wrapping around her like a shield, solid and unbreakable. Welcome home, princess, Kieran murmured, his voice rough with emotion. Now let's make sure you survive long enough to take your throne. As they walked deeper into the sacred forest, toward lands that had been waiting for a nightshade to return, Sera felt the weight of centuries settling on her shoulders. But she also felt something else: purpose, power, and the strange, undeniable certainty that the man walking beside her was exactly where he was meant to be. The guardian and the heir. The prophecy had begun. Chapter 3. The Ashborne stronghold rose from the forest like something out of a fairy tale. Ancient stone towers wrapped in ivy, massive wooden gates carved with wolves and moons, and windows that glowed with warm firelight against the pre-dawn darkness. As Kieran led her across the drawbridge, Sera felt the weight of history pressing down on her. This has been your family's seat of power for 8 centuries, Kieran explained. When the Lunar dynasty fell, my ancestors moved the stronghold here, to the heart of the sacred forest. They've been protecting it ever since, keeping it ready for your return. The gates swung open and Sera gasped. Inside the courtyard, dozens of wolves sat in perfect formation, some in human form, others in their animal shapes. All of them had their heads bowed in a gesture of respect. As she passed, they began to howl, a chorus of welcome that raised goosebumps on her arms. They can sense your bloodline, Kieran said softly. The lunar mark calls to something deep in all of us. You're not just royalty, Sera. You're the alpha of alphas. Every wolf in these territories is hardwired to recognize your authority. A tall woman with steel-gray hair and eyes like winter frost stepped forward. She wore ceremonial robes marked with the Ashborne crest, and authority radiated from her like heat. High Elder Miriam, Kieran said, his tone respectful. This is Sera Nightshade, last daughter of the Lunar line, heir to the dynasty of Moon and Silver. Miriam's voice rang across the courtyard. We have waited 300 years for this moment. Welcome home, your highness. She dropped to one knee. Every wolf in the courtyard followed, a wave of submission that made Sera's chest tighten. Please don't, Sera whispered. I don't know how to be what you need. Miriam rose, her expression softening. Then we will teach you. That is why we're here. She turned to Kieran. The council chamber is prepared. The bloodline artifacts have been retrieved from the vault. And we've sent word to the loyal houses, those who remain faithful to the Nightshade line even in exile. How many responded? Kieran asked. 7 houses have pledged their support. The Stormwolves, the Moonrunners, the Silverbacks, the Thornkeepers, the Shadowpines, the Frostfangs, and the Emberclaws. Together with the Ashborne forces, you'll have nearly 5,000 wolves at the Spring Council. And our enemies? Miriam's expression darkened. The Blackthorn clan leads the opposition. They've formed a coalition called the Iron Alliance. 8 houses strong, maybe 10,000 wolves. They've been spreading propaganda that the Lunar dynasty was tyrannical, that their fall brought freedom, that restoring the throne would mean returning to oppression. That's a lie, Kieran growled. But it's an effective one. Miriam looked at Sera with sympathy. Your family ruled with wisdom and compassion, but power always breeds resentment. The houses that betrayed you 3 centuries ago have spent generations justifying their treachery. They can't allow you to reclaim the throne, or their own legitimacy crumbles. Sera felt the weight of it all crushing down on her. How am I supposed to fight 10,000 wolves? You don't fight them all. Kieran's hand found hers, his touch grounding. You prove you're worthy. At the Spring Council you'll face the trials of ascension, 3 tests that every royal heir must pass. Combat prowess, wisdom of leadership, and connection to the moon itself. Pass those and even your enemies will have to acknowledge your claim. And if I fail? Then the Iron Alliance will challenge for the throne, and we'll have civil war. Miriam's tone was bleak. But you won't fail. You carry the blood of Queen's child. You just need to remember what that means. She led them into the stronghold's great hall, a vast chamber with soaring ceilings and walls covered in ancient tapestries. At the far end, on a raised dais, sat a throne carved from silvery wood that seemed to glow in the firelight. Behind it, a massive tapestry depicted a woman with silver eyes and flowing dark hair, a crescent moon blazing on her forehead, wolves bowing at her feet. Queen Ravenna, Sera breathed, recognizing the woman from her dreams. Your great-great-great-grandmother, 5 generations back. Miriam gestured to other tapestries showing different women, all with the same commanding presence. The Nightshade Queens. Each one ruled with power and grace. Each one could command the very moon, heal the wounded, see the threads of fate. Their gifts were legend. Sera stared at the faces of her ancestors, feeling impossibly small. I can't do any of those things. Not yet. Kieran squeezed her hand. But your power is already waking. I felt it in the forest, the way the trees moved for you, the way the wolves outside sensed your presence. It's buried deep, locked behind centuries of suppression, but it's there. Miriam approached carrying a wooden chest inlaid with silver moons. These are the bloodline artifacts. Objects that belong to your ancestors, each one imbued with their power. Touching them will help unlock your own abilities, but I warn you it won't be comfortable. You'll experience their memories, their lives, their deaths. I can handle it, Sera said with more confidence than she felt. The first object Miriam removed was a silver circlet, delicate and ancient. Queen Liona's crown. She ruled 6 centuries ago and her gift was foresight. She could see possible futures, guide her people away from disaster. The moment Sera touched the circlet, the world exploded. She was Liona standing on a battlefield, blood soaking the ground. She saw 2 paths, one where she led her wolves into the fight and they all died, another where she held back and waited for reinforcements. She chose patience. Victory. Her people survived. Sera gasped as the vision released her, leaving her shaking. I saw. I felt. Her memories, Miriam confirmed. Keep going. Next came a silver dagger, its blade etched with runes. Queen Morgana's blade. Her gift was battle prowess, she could fight like 20 wolves, move faster than the eye could follow. The dagger's power slammed into Sera. Suddenly she was moving through combat forms she'd never learned, her body knowing instinctively how to strike, block, spin, kill. Muscle memory from a woman dead for centuries flowed through her veins. Then came a chalice, Queen Alara's cup. She was the greatest healer the dynasty ever produced. Sera felt the warmth of healing magic, the knowledge of every herb and remedy, the ability to knit bone and mend flesh with just a touch and focused will. A crystal orb, Queen Celine's scrying stone. She could see across vast distances, communicate through dreams. Sera's consciousness expanded, touching minds across the territories, seeing through 1,000 eyes at once. One by one, Miriam presented the artifacts. One by one, Sera absorbed the memories and powers of her ancestors. With each touch, she felt herself changing, growing, becoming something more than human. The power was intoxicating and terrifying in equal measure. Finally, Miriam lifted the last object, a silver staff topped with a crescent moon. Queen Ravenna's staff. The most powerful artifact in the dynasty's history. Her gift was the rarest of all. She could command the moon itself, force the change in any wolf, calm beast minds, or drive them into frenzy. She was the strongest queen who ever lived. Sera's hands trembled as she reached for the staff. The moment her fingers closed around it, the world vanished. She was Ravenna standing in a castle under siege. Blood. Fire. Screams. The 5 houses had breached the walls. Her children were being smuggled away through secret passages, crying for their mother. She couldn't go with them. Someone had to stay. Someone had to buy them time. Ravenna planted the staff and called the moon. Silver light exploded from her body, so bright the attackers had to shield their eyes. She felt her life force pouring into the spell, every ounce of power she possessed channeling through the staff. The children would escape. The bloodline would survive. That was all that mattered. Run, she whispered to the fading images of her babies. Run and hide. Sleep until the time is right. The dynasty never dies. It only dreams. Then the assassins broke through her defenses and pain. Sera screamed as Ravenna's death echoed through her. Strong arms caught her as her legs gave out. Kieran's voice cut through the agony. I've got you. You're safe. Come back, Sera. Come back to me. Slowly, painfully she returned to herself. But she was changed. She could feel the power now, really feel it, coiled inside her like a living thing. The gifts of all her ancestors, awakened and waiting for her command. She looked up at Kieran and he sucked in a sharp breath. Your eyes, he whispered. They're silver. Miriam held up a mirror. Sera stared at her reflection. Her eyes, normally brown, now glowed with the same silver light she'd seen in every portrait of her ancestors. The crescent mark on her skin blazed bright, and she could feel the moon above even though it was hidden by stone and wood. The awakening is complete, Miriam said reverently. The Lunar dynasty has returned. Sera straightened, feeling the weight of the staff in her hand, the memories of queens in her mind, the power of centuries in her blood. She looked at the throne that had been empty for 300 years, and for the first time she understood what it meant. Not just power. Responsibility. Protection. Leadership. How long until the spring council? She asked, her voice steadier than she expected. 2.5 days, Kieran replied, pride shining in his golden eyes. Then we have work to do. Sera turned to Miriam. I need to know everything about the houses that betrayed us. I need to understand pack politics, alliance structures and combat protocols. And I need to learn how to control this power before it controls me. It will be intense, Miriam warned. Sera thought of Ravenna, dying alone to save her children. Of Lyanna, making impossible choices on the battlefield. Of all her ancestors who had carried this burden with grace and strength. I'm ready, she said. And she meant it. Kieran stepped beside her, his presence solid and sure. Then let's begin, Your Highness. We have a dynasty to restore. Chapter 4. The war room was a chamber of strategy and history. Maps covered every surface, marked with territories and pack boundaries. Candles flickered on a massive oak table where Kieran, Miriam, and 3 other high-ranking wolves gathered around Sera. The Spring Council takes place at Moonhaven, neutral ground established after the dynasty fell, Kieran explained, pointing to a location on the central map. Every major house sends representatives. The council has 3 purposes: resolve territorial disputes, address pack law violations, and when necessary recognize new leadership. Or challenge existing claims, added Marcus, Kieran's second-in-command, a scarred veteran with gray streaking his dark hair. The Iron Alliance won't let you walk in and take the throne unopposed. Sera studied the map, her newly awakened tactical mind, courtesy of Queen Morgana's memories, analyzing positions and weaknesses. Who leads the Iron Alliance? Damien Blackthorne. Kieran's voice turned harsh. His family orchestrated the original betrayal. His ancestor, Lord Corvin Blackthorne, was Queen Ravenna's most trusted advisor. He was the one who opened the castle gates to the assassins. The memory flashed through Sera's consciousness. Ravenna's shock and heartbreak as Corvin's true allegiance was revealed. The pain of that betrayal still burned 3 centuries later. Why? Sera asked. Why would he betray her? Miriam's expression turned grim. Ambition. Fear. The Blackthorne line possessed shadow magic. The ability to move through darkness, manipulate perception, kill from the shadows. Powerful but nowhere near the level of lunar gifts. Corvin believed that if he could eliminate the dynasty, he could claim the throne himself. Did he? For a time. He ruled for 50 years, but without the lunar bloodline to maintain balance, the territories descended into chaos. Pack fought pack. The weak were slaughtered. Humans nearly discovered our existence due to the carnage. Marcus shook his head. The council eventually deposed him, but by then the damage was done. We've never fully recovered. And now his descendant wants to prevent restoration, Sera said, understanding dawning. Because if I reclaim the throne, it proves his entire family legacy was built on treachery. Exactly. Kieran's hand found hers under the table. Damien will do everything in his power to discredit you, challenge you, or eliminate you. He has to. His family's survival depends on keeping the dynasty dead. A young woman with auburn hair and green eyes leaned forward. I'm Zara, head of intelligence. We've been monitoring Blackthorne communications. He's spreading rumors that you're a pretender, that the real Nightshade line died out, that this is an Ashborne plot to seize power. Some will believe it, Miriam said. Without proof, your claim is just words. The mark can be faked, or so Damien claims. He's convinced 3 of the neutral houses to demand verification. Miriam pulled out a scroll. The Trials of Ascension. The council has agreed to abide by their outcome. Sera read the ancient text, feeling the weight of each word. Let those who claim the lunar throne prove their worth through 3 sacred trials. First, the trial of silver, combat against a champion, proving strength of body and will. Second, the trial of wisdom, judgment of a complex dispute, proving clarity of mind and fairness of heart. Third, the trial of moon's call, communion with the lunar source, proving true bloodline connection. Only those who pass all 3 may sit upon the throne. I'll face a champion in combat? Sera's stomach clenched despite Morgana's battle knowledge flowing through her. Who? Damien himself most likely, Kieran said, his jaw tight. He's one of the best fighters in the territories. Brutal, efficient, and he'll fight without honor if it means winning. Can you beat him? Marcus asked bluntly. Sera closed her eyes, feeling the power inside her. Morgana's skill. Ravenna's strength. The lunar magic singing in her veins. I don't know. But I'll die trying. You won't die. Kieran's voice was steel. I've been training for this my entire life. I know Damien's style, his weaknesses. We have 2 days. I can prepare you. The trial of wisdom concerns me more, Miriam interjected. They'll present you with an impossible scenario, a dispute where any solution creates enemies. They'll judge not just your decision, but how you handle pressure, manipulation, and political maneuvering. Sera thought of Lionel's foresight, seeing multiple paths forward. What kind of dispute? It changes every time. Could be a territorial claim, a blood feud, a question of pack law. Whatever it is, both sides will have legitimate arguments. Choose wrong and you'll lose critical support before the final trial. And the trial of Moon's call? Sera looked at the last entry. The room fell silent. Finally Miriam spoke. That one is unique. It requires you to commune directly with the lunar source, the wellspring of power that all shifters draw from. Only true Nightshade blood can establish that connection. Fakes, pretenders, even distant relatives, they'll be rejected. The moon knows its own. And if I'm rejected? You won't be, Kieran said firmly. But Sera caught the flicker of worry in his eyes. A wolf in guard uniform burst into the room. Alpha. We have visitors. The Stormwolf delegation has arrived, and they're demanding an immediate audience. Kieran stood, his Alpha authority flooding the room. How many? 20 wolves, sir. Alpha Grayson leads them. He says he's here to assess the claimant before pledging his house's support. Sera rose as well, drawing on Ravenna's regal bearing. Then let's not keep him waiting. If I'm going to convince the council, I should start with our allies. The great hall had been prepared for formal reception. Sera stood before the empty throne, Kieran at her right hand, Miriam at her left. The Stormwolf delegation entered in formation, warriors all, their power obvious in every movement. Alpha Grayson was a mountain of a man, his hair white as snow despite appearing only in his 40s. Storm-gray eyes assessed Sera with sharp intelligence. He moved with the confidence of someone who'd led his pack for decades. So, he said, his voice like distant thunder. You're the lost princess who's supposed to save us all. I'm the last heir of the Lunar dynasty, Sera replied, keeping her voice steady. Whether I can save anyone remains to be seen. But I'm here to try. Grayson's eyebrows rose. Honest? I like that. Most royalty I've met were full of pretty lies. He circled her slowly, studying. You have the mark. The eyes. The presence. But the Blackthorns are right about one thing. Marks can be faked, eyes can be spelled, presence can be manufactured. Then what would convince you? Sera asked, meeting his gaze without flinching. Show me your power. Real power, not parlor tricks. Grayson gestured to one of his wolves, a young man with a bandaged arm. Eric here took a silver bullet last week. Poisoning set in deep. Our healers say he has maybe a month before it kills him. Can you heal him? Sera's pulse quickened. She'd absorbed Alara's knowledge, but she'd never actually used healing magic. Still, the power was there, waiting. She could feel it. I can try, she said. That's all I ask. Grayson stepped aside. Sera approached the young wolf. Eric's face was pale, sweat beading his forehead, and she could smell the silver poisoning, an acrid metallic scent that made her nose wrinkle. She placed her hands on either side of his wounded arm and closed her eyes. Feel the injury. See the damage. Find the silver particles spreading through his blood. Alara's knowledge guided her. Sera let the healing magic flow, silver light emanating from her palms. She could feel the poison, tiny fragments of silver burrowing deeper into tissue. One by one she drew them out, her power extracting the foreign material and pushing it through his pores. The young wolf gasped as black liquid seeped from his wound, pooling on the floor. Clean the damaged tissue. Knit the cells. Restore what was broken. The wound closed before their eyes, fresh pink skin replacing the infected mess. Eric's color returned, his breathing eased, and when Sera stepped back, he flexed his arm with wonder. It's gone. The pain, the weakness, everything. He dropped to one knee. Thank you, Your Highness. Grayson's stern expression cracked into a wide grin. Well damn. That's the real thing all right. Haven't seen healing like that since my grandfather told stories about Queen Alara herself. He approached Sera and to everyone's surprise, dropped to one knee as well. The Stormwolf Pack pledges its loyalty to the Lunar dynasty. We stand with you, Princess Nightshade, through whatever comes. His entire delegation knelt, fists over hearts, voices joining in unison. For the dynasty. For the moon. For the one true throne. Sera felt tears prick her eyes. Thank you, Alpha Grayson. Your loyalty won't be forgotten. See that it isn't. Grayson rose, his expression turning serious. You've got gifts, girl, no question. But the Spring Council won't be this easy. Damien's gathered enemies who've been waiting 3 centuries for vengeance. They'll come at you with everything they've got. Let them, Sera said, surprising herself with her own conviction. I'm done hiding what I am. The dynasty returns whether they like it or not. Kieran's pride blazed through their growing bond. Miriam nodded approvingly. And as the Stormwolf delegation rose, their howl of allegiance echoed through the stronghold. The hunt was on. The throne awaited. And Sera Nightshade was ready to claim her birthright. Chapter 5. Training began before dawn. Kieran led Sera to a secluded clearing deep in the sacred forest, where ancient stones formed a natural arena. Mist clung to the ground, and the first rays of sunlight filtered through the canopy above. Combat first, Kieran said, stripping off his shirt to reveal a torso covered in scars and corded muscle. You have Morgana's knowledge, but knowledge and instinct are different things. We need to make your body remember what your mind knows. Sera tried not to stare at him, failed, and caught his knowing smirk. Cocky alpha. Confident alpha, he corrected. There's a difference. Now attack me. What? You heard me. Use Morgana's techniques. Come at me like you mean it. Sera hesitated only a moment before her body took over. She moved, fast as lightning, the silver dagger from Morgana's collection suddenly in her hand. She struck high, then low, spinning into a kick that should have taken Kieran's legs out. He blocked every move, his speed matching hers, his golden eyes tracking her like prey. Good. But you're holding back. Stop thinking. Just feel. They danced through the clearing, a blur of motion. Sera felt herself falling into the rhythm, Morgana's battle instincts merging with her own determination. She began to anticipate Kieran's moves, started pressing him harder, faster. Then he swept her legs out and pinned her to the ground, his body covering hers, his face inches away. Dead? He murmured. If I were Damien, you'd be dead. Then stop holding back, Sera challenged, breathing hard. Fight me like you'd fight him. Something dangerous flickered in Kieran's eyes. You sure about that? Do it. He released her and stepped back. When he moved again, it was with the full force of an alpha, brutal, precise, overwhelming. Sera barely managed to block, her arms screaming with each impact. He was so much stronger than her, so much faster. But she had magic. Silver light exploded from her palms and Kieran stumbled back, momentarily blinded. Sera pressed her advantage, combining physical attacks with bursts of lunar power. She couldn't match his strength, but she could use her gifts to even the odds. They fought for an hour, then 2. Sera's muscles burned, her lungs ached, but she refused to quit. Every time Kieran knocked her down, she got back up. Every time he landed a blow, she adjusted her defense. Finally, he called a halt. Enough. You'll do. Sera collapsed onto the grass, gasping. That's it? I lasted 2 hours? Against me? That's impressive. Kieran offered his hand and pulled her up. Damien's good, but he doesn't have my training. And he won't expect you to combine magic with combat. That'll be your edge. Speaking of magic, Miriam's voice called from the edge of the clearing. Time for the next lesson. The elder approached carrying a small chest. The Trial of Moon's call will test your connection to the lunar source. It's not just about power, it's about understanding. The moon is alive in its own way, conscious and choosing. You need to prove you're worthy of its gifts. How do I do that? Sera asked, wiping sweat from her forehead. Meditation. Communion. Opening yourself completely to the lunar energy. Miriam set down the chest and removed a sphere of polished crystal. This is a focusing stone. It amplifies the connection. Place your hands on it and clear your mind. Sera sat cross-legged on the grass, the crystal cool against her palms. She closed her eyes and reached for the power inside her, the silver light that had been growing stronger since her awakening. At first nothing happened. Then, slowly she felt something respond. A presence, vast and ancient, like the moon itself was looking at her. Examining her. Judging her. Who seeks communion. The voice wasn't words but feeling, pure and primal. Sera's breath caught. Sera Nightshade, last daughter of the lunar line. I seek to reclaim my birthright. Many have made such claims. Many have failed. What makes you worthy? Sera thought of Ravenna, dying to save her children. Of all her ancestors who'd carried this burden with grace and sacrifice. I don't know if I'm worthy. But I'm willing to try. I'm willing to learn, to serve, to protect. The dynasty fell because of betrayal, but it doesn't have to stay fallen. I want to restore balance. I want to be what my people need. Silence stretched. Then, slowly warmth flooded through her. The moon's presence wrapped around her like an embrace. You carry their strength, their wisdom, their heart. Rise, daughter of the moon. Rise and remember what was lost. The world exploded with visions. Sera saw the dynasty in its glory, castles gleaming under moonlight, packs living in harmony, queens ruling with wisdom and power. She saw the betrayal, the fall, the centuries of chaos. She saw the future, branching paths based on choices not yet made. One path showed her triumphant at the Spring Council, the throne reclaimed, peace restored. Another showed her broken and bleeding, Damien standing over her corpse. A third showed civil war, packs tearing each other apart, the territories descending into darkness. The prophecy is real. 2 souls, 2 houses, bound by fate. Alone you will fail. Together you can reshape destiny. Choose wisely, daughter. The future of all shifters rests on the bond you forge. The vision faded. Sera gasped, released from the communion, and found herself lying on the ground with Kieran and Miriam hovering over her anxiously. What did you see? Miriam asked urgently. Everything, Sera whispered. The moon showed me everything. And it said. She looked at Kieran, understanding dawning. The prophecy isn't just about political alliance. It's about us. About the bond between guardian and heir. Kieran's expression turned guarded. What kind of bond? The deepest kind. Sera sat up, her heart racing. A mating bond. That's what the prophecy means by unite. Not just working together, actually bonding our souls. When a guardian and heir complete the mate bond, their powers merge. I would gain your strength, your protection. You would gain access to my lunar gifts. Together, we'd be strong enough to face anything. Miriam's eyes widened. The convergence. It's real. I thought it was just legend. Stories of ancient guardians and heirs whose bonds made them unstoppable. But if the moon itself confirmed it. A mate bond is permanent, Kieran said, his voice rough. It's not something to enter lightly, Sera. Once formed, it can't be broken. We'd be connected for life. Sharing emotions, power, everything. You'd be tied to me forever. Would that be so terrible? The words escaped before Sera could stop them. Kieran's golden eyes blazed. You've known me for 2 days. I've known you for centuries. Sera touched the pendant at her throat. Ravenna trusted Theron absolutely. Their bond was sacred. I can feel it in the memories she left me. She knew the Ashborne line would never break faith. And every moment I've spent with you has proven her right. This isn't just about trust. It's about choice. Your choice. Kieran moved closer, his presence overwhelming. I was born for this. Trained for it. But you weren't. You should have had a normal life, Sera. You should have had the freedom to choose your own path, your own mate. Instead, you're being pushed into a destiny you never asked for. Maybe. But I'm choosing anyway. Sera stood, meeting him eye to eye. The moon showed me 3 futures, Kieran. In the one where I stand alone, I fail. Damien kills me and civil war destroys everything. In the one where we're just allies working together but not bonded, we survive but barely. The territories remain fractured. But in the 3rd future, the one where we complete the mate bond and form the convergence, that's where we win. That's where peace is restored and the dynasty truly returns. You saw all that? The moon doesn't lie. Sera took his hand, feeling the electric connection between them. I'm not asking you to love me, Kieran. I know that takes time. But I'm asking you to bond with me. To let the prophecy fulfill itself. To be what we were always meant to be, guardian and heir, united against the darkness. Kieran's internal struggle played across his face. Finally, he squeezed her hand. The mate bond ritual requires preparation. 3 days of fasting and meditation, performed under the full moon. The spring council is in 2 days. Then we perform it there, Sera said. Publicly. In front of all the packs. It'll be the ultimate proof of my legitimacy. If the moon accepts our bond and triggers the convergence, no one can claim I'm a pretender. And if it doesn't work? Miriam asked. If the bond fails, you'll be exposed as a fraud. It'll work. Sera's confidence was absolute. The moon told me it would. We just have to be brave enough to try. Kieran searched her face for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded. All right. We bond at the spring council. But Sera, once this is done, there's no going back. You'll be mine and I'll be yours. Forever. I know. Sera smiled despite her racing heart. I'm counting on it. Miriam cleared her throat. Then I need to begin preparations immediately. The mate bond ritual is sacred and complex. We'll need the old ceremonial chamber prepared, the ancient vows transcribed, and the moon must be at its peak. Everything has to be perfect. Make it happen, Kieran ordered. And Miriam? This stays quiet. If word gets out before we're ready, our enemies will do everything possible to prevent the ritual. Agreed. I'll tell only those who absolutely need to know. Miriam hurried off, already shouting orders to passing wolves. Alone in the clearing, Kieran pulled Sera close. You sure about this? Really sure. Sera leaned into his warmth, feeling the rightness of it in her bones. I've never been more sure of anything. You're my guardian, Kieran. And I think maybe you're also my fate. Then I'm the luckiest guardian who ever lived, he murmured against her hair. Now come on. We still have 1 more day of training, and I need to teach you how to dodge Damien's shadow magic. As they walked back to the stronghold hand in hand, neither noticed the raven perched in the trees above. A raven whose eyes gleamed with intelligence that was far too human. It took flight, winging toward the western territories where Damien Blackthorn waited for news of the lost princess. The pieces were moving into place. The spring council approached. And the fate of all shifters would be decided under the light of the full moon. Chapter 6. The western territories lay shrouded in perpetual twilight, where ancient pines grew so dense that sunlight barely penetrated their canopy. Here, in a fortress of black stone, Damien Blackthorn presided over the Iron Alliance's final war council. The pretender has won over the Stormwolves, reported a thin man with serpent eyes, Lord Valen of the Cobra Shade Pack. Grayson is convinced she's legitimate. Damien lounged on his throne, a construction of dark wood and shadow that seemed to drink in the light. He was beautiful in a dangerous way, sharp features, hair black as midnight, eyes that shifted between dark brown and pure black depending on his mood. Grayson's an old fool, clinging to legends. What else? 6 more houses have pledged to her, continued Lady Moira of the Bloodfawn clan, her red hair like flames against her pale skin. The Ashborne coalition grows stronger. If this continues, we won't have the votes to contest her claim. Then we don't contest through votes. Damien's smile was cold. We contest through the trials. I'll face her in combat, a fragile librarian who's had 2 days of training. I've been preparing my entire life. The trial of Silver will end with her blood on my hands. But what if she passes? Moira pressed. What if the trials confirm her legitimacy? They won't. Damien stood, shadows writhing around him like living things. Because I've made arrangements to ensure she never reaches the 3rd trial. The trial of Moon's Call requires direct communion with the lunar source. If someone were to poison that connection, even the strongest Nightshade blood would be rejected. Valen's eyes widened. You found a way to corrupt the lunar well? Not corrupt. Misdirect. Damien pulled out a vial filled with black liquid. Essence of Void. A gift from our friends in the Shadow Conclave. When released into the ceremonial chamber, it creates a barrier between the supplicant and the moon. She'll reach for power and find nothing. The moon will seem to reject her, proving she's a fraud. That's brilliant, Moira breathed. Even if she survives combat and passes the wisdom trial, she'll fail the final test. Her claim will be destroyed. And with no legitimate heir, the throne remains open. Damien's smile widened. Which is exactly where we want it. The dynasty stays dead, the territories remain divided, and the Iron Alliance maintains control. My family's legacy is secure. What about the Guardian? Asked a gruff voice from the corner. Alpha Brutus of the Ironjaw pack was a massive man, more beast than human even in his skin. Kieran Ashborne is no fool. He'll have countermeasures. Kieran is blinded by duty and prophecy, Damien scoffed. He actually believes this girl can save us all. His faith makes him predictable. We know every move he'll make because he'll follow the old protocols exactly. There are rumors, Valen said carefully, of something more between them. Whispers of a possible mate bond. Damien's expression darkened. Impossible. The mate bond ritual requires 3 days of preparation. The council is tomorrow. They don't have time. Unless they plan to perform it at the council itself. Silence fell over the room. Damien's shadows grew agitated, writhing faster. If they complete the mate bond and trigger a convergence, it's over. The combined power of Guardian and Heir would be unstoppable. Every wolf would feel it, undeniable proof of legitimacy. So we prevent the ritual, Moira said. Sabotage it. Interrupt it. Kill one of them before it's complete. Too obvious. If we attack directly, we become the villains and the neutral houses will turn against us. Damien paced, his mind racing. No, we need to be subtle. Plant doubt. Undermine confidence. Make her question the bond before it's sealed. How? Brutus rumbled. A slow, cruel smile spread across Damien's face. By revealing the truth about Guardian bonds. The part the Ashbournes never mention, that once the bond is complete, the Guardian gains absolute authority over the Heir's power. He can control it, channel it, even suppress it if necessary. It's a safeguard built into the ancient magic, meant to prevent corrupted royals from abusing their gifts. But Kieran wouldn't. Wouldn't he? Damien's eyes gleamed. He's been raised for one purpose, to control the Lunar dynasty. His entire family exists to be puppet masters for the Nightshade line. Once bonded, he could use her as a weapon, drain her power for himself, or lock her away as a figurehead while he rules in her name. And she'd be helpless to stop him because mate bonds can't be broken. Valen nodded slowly. Plant that seed of doubt at the right moment. And she'll refuse the bond. Without the convergence, she's just a girl with some tricks. I can beat her. The trials will prove her unworthy. And the dynasty stays dead. Damien's satisfaction was evident. Spread the word quietly among the neutral houses. Let them whisper about the dangers of Guardian bonds. By the time she stands before the council, half the packs will be questioning whether bonding with Kieran is wise or suicidal. What about the essence of void? Moira asked. When do we deploy it? During the trial of Moon's call. I have an agent in place, someone close to the council elders who can release the essence without being detected. The pretender will reach for the moon and be rejected. Her claim will crumble and with it, any hope of restoring the dynasty. Damien raised the vial. To the Iron Alliance. To the death of the old ways. And to the new era we'll build on the ashes of the Nightshade line. His assembled allies raised their own glasses. To the Alliance. As they drank, none of them noticed the small mouse that scurried along the wall, its eyes unnaturally bright. It slipped through a crack in the stone and raced through the fortress halls until it reached an open window. There it transformed, bones shifting, fur retracting, until a young woman stood in its place. Lyra, one of Kieran's best scouts, cursed under her breath. They'd suspected sabotage, but this was worse than anticipated. She had to get word back to the stronghold before it was too late. She shifted back into mouse form and ran. Meanwhile, at the Ashbourne stronghold, Sera stood in the ceremonial chamber where the mate bond ritual would take place. It was a perfect circle carved into the stone floor, surrounded by ancient runes that glowed faintly in the darkness. Above, the ceiling was open to the sky, allowing moonlight to pour down directly onto the circle. This is where it'll happen? She asked Miriam, who was arranging various ceremonial objects around the perimeter. This is the most sacred space in the stronghold. Every Ashbourne mating bond for the past 8 centuries has been sealed here. The magic is old and strong. Miriam placed the last candle. Are you nervous? Terrified, Sera admitted. Not of the bond but of everything riding on it. If this fails. It won't fail. Kieran's voice came from the doorway. He entered, carrying a wooden box. The moon has already confirmed our compatibility. This is just making it official. Sera turned to him, her heart skipping at the sight. He'd cleaned up, his hair still damp from a shower, wearing traditional ceremonial clothes, dark leather pants and a loose shirt marked with the Ashbourne crest. He looked every inch the Alpha Guardian. I brought you something, he said, opening the box. Inside lay a dress of flowing silver fabric that seemed to capture moonlight itself. It belonged to Queen Ravenna. She wore it when she bonded with her mate. Miriam found it in the dynasty vault. Sera touched the fabric reverently. It's beautiful. Like the woman who'll wear it. Kieran's eyes softened. Sera, I need you to understand something before we do this. The mate bond isn't just ceremony and magic. It's real. Once formed, I'll feel everything you feel. Your joy, your pain, your fears. And you'll feel mine. There'll be no secrets between us, no walls. We'll be truly united in every way. I understand. Do you? He stepped closer. Because I need you to know that this isn't duty for me anymore. It stopped being duty the moment you trusted me in that forest. I'm choosing this bond, Sera. Choosing you. Not because of prophecy or oaths, but because in 2 days, you've become someone I can't imagine existing without. Sera's breath caught. Kieran. I know it's fast. I know it's insane. But mate bonds don't follow logical timelines. They follow the heart. And mine. He placed her hand over his chest, letting her feel his racing heartbeat. Mine is telling me you're it. You're the one. My fated mate. My Luna. My everything. Tears blurred Sera's vision. I feel it too. This connection between us, it's more than prophecy. It's real. You're real. And I want this bond more than I've ever wanted anything. Kieran cupped her face, his thumb brushing away a tear. Then tomorrow in front of all the packs I'll claim you as mine. And may the moon help anyone who tries to stop me. He kissed her then, and it was nothing like the tentative touches they'd shared before. This was claiming, possessive and sure. Sera melted into him, feeling the bond between them pulse with anticipation. The magic recognized what was coming, preparing for the moment when Guardian and Heir would become one. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Miriam cleared her throat meaningfully. Perhaps you two should save some of that enthusiasm for tomorrow. They laughed, the tension breaking. But as Sera picked up Ravenna's dress, a chill ran down her spine. For just a moment she could have sworn she felt something dark watching them, a presence filled with malice and hunger. She shook it off as pre-ritual nerves. Nothing was going to stop tomorrow. Nothing would prevent her from claiming both her throne and her mate. The spring council awaited. The prophecy would be fulfilled. And the dynasty would rise again. Chapter 7. Moonhaven sprawled across a vast meadow ringed by ancient standing stones. Thousands of wolves had gathered, representatives from every pack in the territories. Banners flew in the wind, each displaying the crest of its house. The air thrummed with power and tension as enemies stood side by side, bound by centuries-old council law to keep peace on these sacred grounds. Sera rode beside Kieran at the head of their procession, flanked by the Stormwolves, Moonrunners, Silverbacks, and all the other houses who'd pledged loyalty. She wore Ravenna's silver dress, her hair unbound and flowing, the crescent mark on her collarbone blazing bright. The staff of Queen Ravenna rested across her lap, and she'd never felt more like a queen. Remember, Kieran murmured as they approached the main pavilion, stay calm during the trial of wisdom. They'll try to provoke you, make you act rashly. Don't give them the satisfaction. I won't, Sera promised, though her stomach churned with nerves. The council pavilion was massive, open-sided to allow all to witness the proceedings. At the center sat the High Council, 7 elders from neutral houses, chosen to adjudicate disputes and verify claims of succession. Elder Thorn, a wizened man with more years than most could count, served as speaker. Let the spring council commence, Thorn's voice rang out, magically amplified. We gather to address 3 matters: territorial disputes in the eastern ranges, the blood feud between the Shadalpines and Emberclaws, and the claim of succession to the Lunar throne. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Every eye turned to Sera. The claimant will approach, Thorn commanded. Sera dismounted with fluid grace, feeling the weight of thousands of gazes. Kieran moved to follow, but she shook her head slightly. This part she had to do alone. She walked to the center of the pavilion, planted the staff, and met Thorn's ancient eyes without flinching. State your name and claim, Thorn said. I am Sera Nightshade, last living heir of the Lunar dynasty, descended from Queen Ravenna through 5 generations. I claim the throne of the dynasties, the rule of the sacred territories, and the loyalty of all packs. Her voice carried across the meadow. I bear the mark of the bloodline. I wield the power of my ancestors. And I stand ready to prove my worth through the trials of ascension. The mark can be faked, a voice called out. Damian Blackthorn stepped forward, his presence dark and commanding. I challenge the legitimacy of this claim. I demand she prove her bloodline through the trials as tradition requires. So noted. Thorn's expression gave nothing away. Does anyone else contest the claim? Silence. Then one by one 7 more alphas stepped forward, all members of the Iron Alliance. The message was clear. Sera faced unified opposition. Let the trials of ascension begin, Thorn declared. First, the trial of silver, combat against a champion chosen by the council. I volunteer, Damien said immediately. Of course he did. Sera had expected nothing less. She studied her opponent. Damien was several inches taller, broader through the shoulders, and moved with the confidence of someone who'd never lost a fight. His shadows already writhed around him, eager for violence. Do you accept the challenge? Thorn asked Sera. I do. The crowd roared. Guards quickly marked out a fighting circle while healers stood ready at the edges. This trial was to first blood or submission, rarely to death, but accidents happened. And Sera suspected Damien wouldn't be concerned about accidents. She handed the staff to Miriam and entered the circle. Morgana's battle instincts rose, sharpening her focus. Damien entered from the opposite side, shadows coalescing into dark armor across his skin. I'll make this quick, he said, just loud enough for her to hear. You're out of your depth, little princess. Surrender now and I'll let you leave with your life. Come and try to take it, Sera replied, her voice cold as winter. Damien attacked. He was fast, faster than Kieran, she realized with shock. His shadow magic allowed him to partially phase, making him difficult to track. He flickered in and out of sight, striking from unexpected angles. His fist connected with her ribs and pain exploded through her side. Sera rolled with the impact, using Morgana's techniques to turn defense into offense. She came up with silver light blazing from her hands, forcing Damien to dodge. But he was already moving, shadows carrying him behind her. She barely blocked the next strike. They danced through the circle, neither gaining clear advantage. Damien was stronger and more experienced, but Sera had magic and unpredictability. Every time he thought he had her pattern figured out, she changed tactics, drawing from the diverse combat styles of her ancestors. You're better than expected, Damien admitted, circling her. But magic has limits. You're already tiring. He was right. Sera could feel her power draining with each burst of lunar light. She needed to end this quickly. Think, what would Morgana do? The memory came, a technique Morgana had used against overwhelming opponents. Faint weakness, draw them in, then strike with everything. Sera let herself stumble as if exhausted. Damien's eyes lit with triumph. He rushed in for the killing blow. At the last second, Sera dropped flat and swept his legs. As Damien fell, she channeled every ounce of power she had left into one concentrated blast. Silver light exploded from her palms, catching him full in the chest and launching him backward. He crashed into the edge of the circle, smoking slightly, his shadow armor shattered. Sera pounced, her dagger at his throat before he could recover. Yield. For a moment she thought he'd refuse. Death blazed in his eyes. But the rules were absolute. Refuse to yield with a blade at your throat and you forfeited all honor. His house would be shamed. I yield, he spat. The crowd erupted. Sera stood, chest heaving, and offered her hand to help Damien up. He stared at it with hatred, then pulled himself up without assistance and stalked from the circle. Thorn's voice cut through the noise. The trial of silver is complete. The claimant has proven her combat prowess. Now comes the trial of wisdom. A dispute will be presented, and the claimant must provide judgment. 2 wolves were brought forward, Alpha Marcus of the Thornkeepers and Alpha Selene of the Shadowpines. They glared at each other with undisguised hatred. State the dispute, Thorn commanded. Marcus spoke first. 50 years ago, the Shadowpines raided our territory during the winter, killing 17 of my pack and stealing our food stores. That crime has never been answered. I demand blood payment, 3 Shadowpine lives for every Thornkeeper killed. That raid was retaliation, Selene countered. 5 years before, the Thornkeepers poisoned our water supply, killing 23 of our young. We sought justice that the council refused to give. Any blood debt is theirs, not ours. Lies. Marcus roared. We never poisoned anyone. Enough, Thorn said. Claimant Nightshade, you must judge this dispute. Choose wisely, both packs are here in force. Your decision will make enemies. Sera's mind raced. This was impossible. Both sides believed they were right. Any choice would alienate one pack completely. Unless... She thought of Lionna's foresight, seeing multiple paths. And suddenly she understood. The trial wasn't about choosing sides. It was about finding a better path forward. I find, Sera said clearly, that both packs have legitimate grievances. But I also find that this blood feud has poisoned both houses for half a century. Marcus, you say the Thornkeepers never poisoned the Shadowpines. Celine, you say you did it in retaliation. The truth is probably somewhere in between. Maybe a lone wolf acted without pack sanction, or maybe false information led to tragic mistakes. Regardless, the cycle of violence must end. She looked between them. I propose a truth ceremony. Both packs will open their histories to neutral investigators. We'll discover what really happened 50 years ago. If the Thornkeepers are found guilty of poisoning, they'll pay the blood debt Celine demands. If they're innocent, the Shadowpines will pay for their raid. But she raised her hand as both alphas started to object. Both packs will also perform a binding ceremony. Your children will be taught together, your territories will share resources for one generation, and you'll fight side by side in any conflicts. Turn enemies into allies. Transform hate into understanding. Silence fell. Then Thorn spoke. An interesting judgment. Do the parties accept? Marcus and Celine looked at each other. Slowly, grudgingly they nodded. We accept, Marcus said. As do I, Celine agreed. Though I still think you're responsible for the poisoning. And I know we're not, Marcus shot back. But I'm willing to let truth decide. Applause rippled through the crowd, not roaring approval but thoughtful acceptance. Sera had threaded an impossible needle, finding a solution that satisfied neither side completely but gave both a path to peace. The trial of wisdom is complete, Thorn declared. The claimant has proven her judgment sound. Now comes the final trial, the trial of Moon's Call. The claimant will commune with the lunar source and prove her bloodline true. Prepare the ceremonial chamber. This was it. The moment everything depended on. Sera felt Kieran's pride through their growing bond, saw the support in the faces of her allies. But she also saw Damien's smirk, the satisfaction in the Iron Alliance's expressions. They knew something. Had planned something. The ceremonial chamber was a natural cave system beneath the standing stones, its walls covered in ancient runes. At the center sat a pool of water so clear it reflected the sky above perfectly, the lunar well where the moon's power pooled in physical form. Enter alone, Thorn instructed. Place your hands in the water and call to the moon. If your blood is true, you will be answered. If not. He didn't need to finish. Sera walked into the chamber, feeling the weight of centuries pressing down on her. The well glowed with soft silver light. She knelt beside it, took a deep breath, and plunged her hands into the water. Cold. So cold. And then, nothing. No response. No warmth. No presence. Sera reached deeper, calling to the power that had spoken to her just days ago. Still nothing. Panic clawed at her throat. What was wrong? The moon had confirmed her bloodline. It had promised. Then she smelled it. A acrid, bitter scent in the air. Something wrong. Something corrupt. Poison. Damien had poisoned the well somehow, created a barrier between her and the lunar source. She was being cut off deliberately, made to seem like a fraud. Sera's mind raced. She could expose the sabotage, but would anyone believe her? Or would they think she was making excuses for failure? She needed to break through the barrier, prove herself despite the interference. She closed her eyes and thought of Ravenna. Of her grandmother. Of all the queens who'd carried this burden. Their power lived in her blood. She didn't need the well to prove it. Sera called the moon directly, bypassing the well entirely. She reached up through the open ceiling, through stone and earth and sky, to touch the actual moon hanging in the heavens. Mother Moon, hear me. I am Sera Nightshade. Your daughter. Your heir. I don't need a well to reach you. I carry your light in my very soul. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then, power. It slammed into her like a tidal wave. The moon responded, not through the poisoned well, but directly through the bond they shared. Silver light exploded from Sera's body, so bright everyone in the chamber had to shield their eyes. The crescent mark on her collarbone blazed like a star. Her eyes glowed pure silver. And the water in the well boiled away, evaporating under the intensity of the lunar power flowing through her. When the light finally faded, Sera stood at the center of a circle of scorched stone, breathing hard but triumphant. And floating in the air around her were dozens of silver orbs, manifestations of lunar power that only true Nightshade blood could summon. The council elders stared in shock. Even Thorn looked shaken. The trial of Moon's Call is complete, he managed. The moon has not only answered, it has proclaimed. Sera Nightshade is the true heir. The dynasty returns. The assembled packs erupted. Some in joy, others in dismay, but all in shock at the raw display of power. Sera walked from the chamber on trembling legs, straight to where Kieran waited. "Someone poisoned the well," she murmured. "I felt it." "I know." Lyra discovered the plan. His eyes blazed. "But you overcame it. You reached the moon itself. Sera, what you just did, that level of power hasn't been seen in centuries." "It wasn't enough," Sera said. "We still need the convergence. We need to complete the bond. Now before they can sabotage that too." Kieran nodded. "Then let's give them a show they'll never forget." He turned to Thorn. "I invoke the ancient right of guardian bond. The trials are complete. Now let the prophecy be fulfilled. I claim Sera Nightshade as my fated mate, and I ask the council to witness our union under the light of the moon." Gasps rippled through the crowd. "A mate bond ceremony here and now?" Thorn's expression was unreadable. "Does the claimant accept?" Sera looked at Kieran, at the man who'd protected her, taught her, believed in her. "I accept. With all my heart." "Then let the ceremony begin," Thorn declared. "And may the moon bless this union." As the packs gathered close to witness, as Damien's face twisted with fury, as the moon rose full and bright overhead, Sera and Kieran stepped into the center of the pavilion. The convergence was about to begin. And nothing, not sabotage, not politics, not ancient enemies, would stop the prophecy from being fulfilled. Chapter 8. The ceremonial circle was hastily prepared in the center of the pavilion. Miriam and the other elders worked with practiced efficiency, chalking ancient runes into the ground while acolytes lit candles at each cardinal point. The full moon hung directly overhead, its light so bright it cast sharp shadows across the meadow. Sera stood at the circle's edge, her heart hammering. This was real. In moments she would be permanently bound to Kieran, their souls intertwined, their powers merged. No going back. No second chances. Having doubts. Damien's voice came from behind her. She turned to find him standing there, his expression carefully neutral. "It's not too late to refuse, you know. Mate bonds can be complicated." "I have no doubts," Sera said firmly. "Really? Because once that bond is sealed, Kieran will have access to all your power. Full access. He could drain you dry if he wanted, use your gifts as his own, even suppress your abilities if he deemed it necessary." Damien stepped closer. "Did the Ashbornes explain that part? How guardian bonds give the guardian absolute authority over the heir's magic?" Sera's blood chilled. "What?" "It's written into the ancient spell work. A safeguard against corrupted royals. The guardian can control the heir's power to prevent abuse. But what's to stop the guardian from being the one to abuse it?" Damien's voice was poisonously sweet. "Kieran's family has waited 3 centuries for this. What if he's not the noble protector he pretends to be? What if he wants the throne for himself, and you're just the key to claiming it?" Doubt crept into Sera's mind. Kieran had never mentioned that detail. "What? He would never. Wouldn't he? You've known him for 3 days, Sera. 3 days. And you're about to give him permanent control over your soul." Damien's eyes gleamed. "I'm no friend to you, but I respect strength. You've earned your throne through the trials. Don't throw it away by trusting too quickly. Once bonded, if Kieran turns on you, you'll be helpless." He walked away, leaving Sera trembling. Could he be telling the truth? She looked across the circle to where Kieran stood speaking with Miriam, his expression focused and determined. Did he know about this? Was he hiding it from her? No. Sera pushed the thoughts away. This was exactly what Damien wanted, doubt to poison the bond before it could form. She'd felt Kieran's sincerity, his genuine care. The moon itself had confirmed their compatibility. But the seed was planted. And as she stepped into the circle to begin the ceremony, a tiny voice in the back of her mind whispered, "What if he's right?" Thorn began the ritual with ancient words in a language that predated modern pack speech. The runes around the circle blazed to life, creating a barrier between them and the watching crowd. Inside, Sera and Kieran faced each other, the air crackling with magic. "This is it," Kieran said softly. "Last chance to back out." "Is it true?" Sera blurted. "That the bond gives you control over my power?" Kieran's expression flickered with surprise, then understanding. "Damien got to you. Just answer the question." He sighed. "Yes, it's true. The guardian bond includes a failsafe. I would be able to access your magic, channel it, and if necessary, suppress it. But Sera, that's only meant to be used if you were to become corrupted or lose control. It's not about domination. It's about protection. And I'm just supposed to trust that you won't abuse it?" "Yes." Kieran's golden eyes held hers. Because I'm also giving you something equally powerful. The bond goes both ways. You'll have access to my strength, my pack's loyalty, my alpha authority. You could command me to do anything and I'd be bound to obey. We'd both be vulnerable to each other. Sera's breath caught. I didn't know that part. Because Damien didn't mention it. Kieran stepped closer. He's trying to break us apart before we even start. Don't let him win, Sera. Trust what you feel, not what he says. She studied his face, searching for deception and finding none. The connection between them hummed with honesty, with affection, with something that might already be love. Damien was wrong. This wasn't about control. It was about true partnership. I trust you, she said. Let's do this. Relief flooded Kieran's features. Thorn continued the ritual, guiding them through the ancient vows. They each cut their palms with ceremonial daggers, mingling their blood while speaking words of binding. I give my strength to you, Kieran said, his voice resonating with power. I give my magic to you, Sera responded, feeling the lunar energy rising. I pledge my protection, my loyalty, my life. I pledge my heart, my soul, my future. From this moment until the stars fade. We are one. Guardian and heir. Fated mates. Bound by moon and blood. Their hands clasped, blood mingling. Power exploded outward. The convergence had begun. Sera felt Kieran's essence pouring into her. His incredible strength, his alpha authority, his unwavering determination. Her body transformed, muscles strengthening, senses sharpening beyond even her enhanced abilities. She could feel his pack bonds connecting her to every Ashborne wolf. They were hers now as much as his. And Kieran was changing too. Silver light raced across his skin as her lunar magic flooded through him. His eyes began to glow with the same silver sheen as hers. The crescent mark appeared on his collarbone, mirroring her own. He gasped as the full force of the dynasty's power slammed into him. I can feel everything, he breathed. Your ancestors, their memories, their gifts. Sera, this is incredible. The power built higher, brighter, until both of them were glowing like stars. The magic spiraled upward, punching through the barrier and shooting into the sky, a beacon visible for miles. Every wolf present felt it, an undeniable pulse of combined alpha and lunar power that spoke of legitimacy and destiny. When the light finally faded, Sera and Kieran stood transformed. Both bore the crescent mark. Both glowed with silver light. And the connection between them was a living thing, thrumming with strength and possibility. They were the convergence. Guardian and heir. Two made one. The watching packs erupted in howls. Some joyful, others reluctant, but all acknowledging what they'd witnessed. The prophecy was fulfilled. The dynasty had returned. And with it, a power that could reshape the territories. Thorn's voice rang out. The mate bond is sealed. The convergence is achieved. All hail Sera Nightshade, queen of the lunar dynasty and ruler of the sacred territories. All hail Kieran Ashborne, guardian consort and alpha of alphas. All hail, the loyal houses roared. But the Iron Alliance remained silent, their faces twisted with fury and disbelief. Damien looked like he'd been struck. His plan had failed. The bond was complete. There was no stopping them now. Sera and Kieran stood hand in hand before the assembled packs. She could feel his pride, his joy, his love flowing through their bond. And she knew he felt hers in return. I claim the throne, Sera said, her voice carrying across the meadow with supernatural clarity. Not to dominate but to serve. Not to rule with fear but with wisdom and compassion. The old dynasties were flawed but they maintained balance. We will restore that balance while creating something new, a reign built on trust, cooperation and respect for all houses. She looked directly at the Iron Alliance. I don't blame the current generations for the sins of their ancestors. The betrayal happened centuries ago. Those responsible are long dead. But the cycle of hatred and division must end. Join me. Help me rebuild what was broken. Together we can make the territories stronger than they've ever been. For a moment she thought they might refuse. Then slowly Lord Valen stepped forward and dropped to one knee. House Cobra Shade acknowledges Queen Seraphina, he said. We pledge our loyalty. Lady Moira followed, then Alpha Brutus, then others. One by one the Iron Alliance fractured as houses chose pragmatism over pride. They'd witnessed undeniable proof of legitimacy. Fighting now would be pointless. Only Damien remained standing. His shadows writhed around him and murder blazed in his eyes. This isn't over, he said quietly, meant only for Sera's enhanced hearing. You may have won today but the Blackthorn line has survived for centuries by being patient. We'll wait. We'll watch. And when you slip, and you will slip, we'll be there. He turned and stalked away, his remaining loyal followers trailing behind. Kieran tensed. Should we stop him? No, Sera said. Let him go. Forcing submission through power alone creates resentment. He needs time to accept reality. We'll deal with the blackthorns when necessary, but today is for celebration, not more conflict. Kieran relaxed, trusting her judgment. That trust, flowing through their bond, warmed Sera more than any fire. The spring council transformed from a gathering of tension to one of cautious joy. Houses that had been enemies for generations began tentative conversations. Alpha Grayson approached with a massive grin. Well done, Your Majesty, he said. Hell of a show. I haven't seen a convergence in my lifetime, didn't think I ever would. But you two, you're the real thing. The territories are in good hands. Thank you, Alpha Grayson. Your early support meant everything. Speaking of support, Miriam interjected, appearing with a goblet of wine. The coronation ceremony should take place within a week. We need to prepare the old palace, gather representatives from all houses, and formally install you on the throne. A week. Sera blinked. I need to find an apartment, quit my job, pack my things. Already handled, Kieran said with a smirk. I may have anticipated this outcome and sent people to collect your belongings. Everything's been moved to the palace. You were that confident? I was that hopeful. He pulled her close, and the bond between them sang with contentment. Besides, you're not going back to the human world. You belong here with your people. With me. Sera wanted to protest the presumption, but he was right. The moment she'd embraced her heritage, her old life had ended. This was her world now. Her purpose. Her destiny. And the man holding her was her future. Take me home, she murmured. Wherever home is now. Kieran's smile was brilliant. As you wish, my queen. As they walked through the cheering crowd, hand in hand, Sera felt the weight of the crown settling on her shoulders. It was heavy, yes, but not unbearable. Not with Kieran beside her. Not with loyal houses supporting her. Not with the moon's blessing flowing through her veins. The dynasty had fallen once through betrayal. It would not fall again. Not on her watch. Chapter 9. The Lunar Palace stood on a cliff overlooking the sacred valley, a masterpiece of ancient architecture that had been sealed and protected for 3 centuries. As Sera and Kieran approached with their escort of loyal houses, the massive gates, covered in ivy and sealed by magic, began to glow. It recognizes you, Miriam breathed. The palace itself knows its queen has returned. The gates swung open with a sound like distant thunder. Beyond lay courtyards overgrown with wild gardens, fountains that had run dry decades ago, and towers that reached toward the sky like fingers grasping for the moon. Despite centuries of abandonment, the palace retained its majesty. It's beautiful, Sera whispered. It's home, Kieran corrected. Your home. Where you were always meant to be. As they crossed the threshold, magic rippled across Sera's skin. The palace was waking up, responding to the nightshade blood that hadn't walked these halls in 300 years. Lights began to flicker in windows. Fountains sputtered to life. The wild gardens seemed to straighten themselves, flowers blooming in impossible profusion. The palace was spell-worked to serve the dynasty, Miriam explained as they walked through the main hall. It's been dormant, waiting. Now that you're here, it'll restore itself. Indeed, Sera could feel the magic working. Dust vanished from surfaces. Cobwebs dissolved. Furniture righted itself. It was like watching time run backward. How many people lived here? Sera asked, marveling at the size. At its peak, nearly 5,000. The royal family, their court, servants, guards, advisors, and visiting dignitaries from other packs. The palace was the heart of pack civilization. Miriam's voice turned sad. After the fall, it was considered cursed. No one dared enter. The Ashbornes maintained protective wards to prevent looters, but otherwise it's been empty. They reached the throne room and Sera's breath caught. It was massive, with soaring ceilings painted with images of the moon in all its phases. At the far end, on a raised dais, sat 2 thrones, one of silvery wood carved with wolves and moons, the other of darker wood etched with protective runes. Queen and consort, Kieran said, squeezing her hand. Your ancestors never ruled alone. They always had a partner at their side. Sera approached the silver throne. As she touched it, visions flooded through her. Every queen who'd sat here, making decisions that shaped the territories. The weight of that history was crushing and exhilarating in equal measure. Tomorrow we deal with governance, Miriam said. Tonight you rest. You've earned it. She led them to the royal chambers, a suite of rooms that took Sera's breath away. Massive windows overlooked the valley. A bed large enough for 4 people dominated one room. And through an archway, a bathing pool carved from natural stone steamed invitingly. "The palace staff will arrive tomorrow," Miriam continued. "I've sent word to families who served the dynasty for generations. They'll be honored to return. For now, I'll leave you two alone. You've had quite a day." After Miriam departed, Sera collapsed onto a chaise lounge, suddenly exhausted. The trials, the bond, the sheer emotional weight of everything, it all crashed down at once. Kieran knelt beside her. "How are you feeling?" "Overwhelmed. Terrified. Exhilarated." She laughed weakly. "Is it always this intense? The mate bond?" "Yes, at first. Everything is amplified. Emotions, sensations, awareness. Give it time. We'll adjust." He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "But Sera, what you did today was extraordinary. You passed impossible trials, overcame sabotage and claimed your throne. I've never been prouder of anyone." Through their bond, she felt his pride was genuine. But she also felt something else, worry. "What's wrong?" He hesitated. "Damien. He's not going to accept this quietly. The Blackthorns are dangerous when cornered. We need to be prepared for retaliation." "Let them try." Sera's voice hardened. "I claim this throne fairly. I won't live in fear of shadows." "Good. Because I have a proposal." Kieran stood and began pacing. "The dynasty fell because your ancestors were too trusting, too isolated. They kept secrets, made decisions in private and didn't share power. That created resentment and made betrayal possible. We should do the opposite." "Meaning?" "Form a true council, representatives from every house including former enemies. Give them real authority, not just ceremonial positions. Show that this dynasty is different, that we're committed to shared governance." His eyes burned with passion. "We have an opportunity to reshape Pack society, Sera. Let's not waste it." She considered his words, feeling the wisdom in them. "A high council with equal voices?" "Exactly. You'd maintain final authority, but only after hearing all perspectives. It would be slower, messier, but far more stable." Kieran knelt again. "What do you think?" Sera smiled. "I think you're brilliant, and I think we should start forming that council tomorrow. But right now..." She stood and pulled him to his feet. "Right now, I want to stop being a queen and just be your mate." Heat flared in Kieran's eyes. The bond between them pulsed with desire, amplifying what was already there. "Are you sure? It's been a long day." "I'm sure." Sera kissed him, pouring all her feelings through the bond. "Well, trust. What? I'm yours, Kieran. Completely. And I want you to be completely mine." What followed was tender and passionate in equal measure. The mate bond transformed physical intimacy into something transcendent. They could feel each other's pleasure, anticipate each other's needs, synchronize their movements until they moved as one being. When they finally collapsed together, sated and content, Sera had never felt more complete. "I love you," Kieran murmured against her hair. "I know it's fast, but through this bond I can't pretend otherwise. I love you, Sera Nightshade." "I love you too," Sera whispered back, tears of joy streaming down her face. "My guardian. My mate. My heart." They fell asleep wrapped in each other, the moon shining down on them through the window. But while they slept, darkness moved through the territories. In the Blackthorn fortress, Damien paced like a caged wolf. His remaining loyal followers watched nervously as their alpha's rage built to dangerous levels. "She humiliated us," Damien snarled. "Made us kneel like dogs before a girl who didn't even know she was a wolf 3 days ago." "What would you have us do?" asked his second, a scarred woman named Raven. "The convergence is complete. Her claim is legitimate. Fighting now would be suicide." "I'm not talking about fighting." Damien's smile was cruel. "I'm talking about something far more subtle. The dynasty fell once because of betrayal from within. What if history repeated itself?" "You want to plant a spy?" "Better. I want to plant doubt." Damien pulled out a folder filled with documents. Old records, manipulated reports, forged evidence. "The Ashborne line has secrets, Raven. Dark ones. Things Kieran's family did during the 3 centuries they guarded the throne. Murders. Cover-ups. Power grabs. What if Queen Serafina learned that her precious mate's family wasn't quite as noble as they pretend?" Raven's eyes widened. "You're going to frame them?" "I'm going to reveal the truth. With creative editing." Damien's satisfaction was evident. Once she sees what the Ashbournes really are, once she understands that they used the guardian bond to control previous queens, she'll question everything. The bond will fracture. And when it does, when the convergence collapses, the dynasty will be vulnerable again. It's risky. All great victories require risk. Damien handed her the folder. Get this information to the right people. Plant it where she'll find it. Make it look like discovery, not manipulation. And be patient. Seeds take time to grow into trees, but once rooted, they're almost impossible to remove. Raven took the folder and vanished into shadow, off to execute her alpha's plan. Damien stared out the window toward the distant palace. Enjoy your triumph, your majesty. It won't last long. The Blackthorns always win in the end. Always. Chapter 10. Cracks in the Fondo. On the first week of Sera's reign passed in a blur of activity. Houses sent delegations to pledge loyalty. The palace filled with staff eager to serve the dynasty again. Sera formed her high council, selecting representatives from each major house, including some from the former Iron Alliance, as a gesture of reconciliation. Kieran proved invaluable, his knowledge of pack politics and centuries of preparation making him the perfect consort. Together they made decisions that began to reshape the territories, new trade agreements, reformed justice systems, and initiatives to repair the damage from centuries of instability. But on the 8th day, everything changed. Sera was reviewing documents in the palace library when she found it, a leather journal tucked behind other books as if hidden but meant to be discovered. The cover bore the Ashborne crest. Curious, she opened it. The first entry was dated 200 years ago, written by Kieran's great-great-grandfather. The Nightshade line has always been powerful but naive. They trust too easily, forgive too quickly. This makes them vulnerable. The Guardian bond was designed not just to protect them but to control them. If a queen ever became inconvenient, the bond allows suppression of her powers. The Ashbournes will always be the true power behind the throne. Sera's blood ran cold. She flipped through more entries, each one worse than the last. Queen Margaret grew suspicious of our motives. We had no choice but to use the bond to diminish her influence. She now believes our decisions are her own. The throne remains secure. The Guardian bond is the perfect leash. So long as the queens believe we're protecting them, they'll never realize we're controlling them. Father often said, the Nightshades have the magic, but the Ashbournes have the wisdom to wield it properly. Let them sit on their throne while we pull the strings. Sera's hands shook. This couldn't be real. Kieran would never, but the entries continued, generation after generation, detailing how the Ashbourne Guardians had manipulated previous queens, suppressed their powers when convenient, and maintained control through the very bond that was supposed to be about partnership. The library door opened. Kieran entered, his smile fading when he saw her expression. Sera? What's wrong? She held up the journal. What is this? He took it, his face paling as he scanned the pages. Where did you find this? Does it matter? Is it true? Did your family use the Guardian bond to control my ancestors? It's complicated. It's a yes or no question, Kieran. Sera's voice rose, pain and betrayal flooding through their bond. Did your family manipulate previous queens? Some of them, yes. But Sera, you have to understand, I don't have to understand anything. She stood, silver light crackling around her hands. You lied to me. You said the bond was about partnership, about mutual vulnerability. But it was always about control, wasn't it? About making sure the stupid, naive Nightshade Queen did what the wise Ashbournes wanted. That's not how it is between us, Kieran protested. Yes, my ancestors made mistakes. Mistakes? They turned queens into puppets. Because some of those queens were making catastrophically bad decisions. Kieran's own anger rose. You think your family was perfect? Queen Margaret nearly started a war with the human world by exposing shifter existence. Queen Lillian was addicted to dark magic and killing innocent wolves to fuel her power. Sometimes intervention was necessary. And you get to decide when it's necessary? Sera felt sick. How do I know you're not manipulating me right now? How do I know any of my decisions have been my own? Because I would never do that to you. Sera, please, don't. She held up her hand. I need time. I need to think. She left the library, leaving Kieran standing there with the damning journal in his hands. Through their bond, she felt his anguish, his desperation to explain. But she slammed her mental shields up, blocking him out. Word of the conflict spread quickly through the palace. By evening, the High Council demanded an emergency session. Sera sat on her throne, Kieran's seat conspicuously empty, and faced her advisors. Alpha Grayson spoke first. Your Majesty, rumors are spreading about tension between you and the consort. If the convergence is failing, It's not failing, Sera said firmly. We're having a disagreement. That's all. With respect, said Lady Moira, who joined the council as representative of the former Iron Alliance, the bond can't function with mistrust. If there's a problem, it needs to be addressed before it weakens your rule. The problem, Sera said coldly, is that I've learned the Guardian bond has a history of being used for manipulation rather than protection. I'm evaluating whether that applies to my situation. Silence fell. The council members exchanged worried glances. May I speak? Damien's voice came from the back of the chamber. He'd been given a seat on the council as part of the reconciliation efforts, and he approached now with calculated sympathy. Your Majesty, I warned you about the dangers of the Guardian bond. The Ashborne line has always kept secrets. If you've discovered evidence of past manipulation, you have every right to question whether history is repeating itself. That's enough, Blackthorn, growled Marcus, Kieran's second in command. You're trying to sow discord. I'm trying to help our queen see reality, Damien countered. The mate bond can be broken if entered under false pretenses. If Kieran misrepresented the nature of the guardian relationship, the moon would honor a petition for dissolution. Sera's heart clenched. Dissolution. It's rare but possible. If you feel manipulated or coerced, you can appeal to the lunar source for release from the bond. Damien's eyes gleamed. You'd retain your throne and powers. You'd just be free. Free. The word echoed temptingly. No more questioning every decision, wondering if it was really hers or if Kieran was influencing her through the bond. No more vulnerability to someone whose family had a history of exploitation. But also, no more feeling Kieran's unwavering support. No more sharing power and purpose. No more love flowing through their connection. I need to think about this, Sera said. Council dismissed. That night, Sera stood on her balcony overlooking the valley, wrestling with her thoughts. The journal's revelations had shaken her to the core. But Damien's eagerness to break the bond was suspicious too. What did he gain from her divorce? Footsteps approached. Miriam joined her at the railing. I heard about the journal, the elder said quietly. So you knew? About the Ashborne manipulation? I knew some of it. Not all. Miriam sighed. The truth is complicated, Your Majesty. Yes, past guardians overstepped. But they weren't wrong about every intervention. Queen Margaret really was endangering the species. Queen Lillian really was corrupted by dark magic. Sometimes, having a guardian with the ability to stop a destructive queen was the only thing that saved us all from annihilation. But who watches the watchmen? Sera demanded. Who stops the guardians from abusing that power? The moon. And love. Miriam turned to face her. Here's what the journal doesn't tell you. Every guardian who abused the bond lived to regret it. The moon punishes those who twist sacred magic for selfish purposes. Guardian Thomas, who manipulated Queen Lillian, died screaming within a year. Guardian Marcus, who suppressed Queen Margaret's powers too completely, lost his mind and had to be executed. The bond protects both parties. If one abuses it, they pay. Sera hadn't known that. So Kieran could hurt you through the bond, yes, but only at tremendous cost to himself. And Sera, I've known that boy since birth. I trained him. I watched him dedicate his entire life to being worthy of the heir he'd protect. He loves you. Truly, deeply, genuinely. I don't believe he's capable of the manipulation you fear. Then where did this journal come from? Miriam pulled out a handkerchief and carefully lifted the journal, sniffing it. Her expression darkened. Shadow magic. Faint but present. This book has been touched by Blackthorn power recently. Sera's stomach dropped. Damien. Most likely. I don't know if the entries are entirely fabricated or just edited. But they were planted for you to find. To create exactly this crisis. Miriam set the journal down. Ask yourself, who benefits if your bond with Kieran breaks? Not you. Not the territories. Only those who want the dynasty to fail. Sera thought of Damien's eager suggestion to dissolve the bond, his carefully prepared arguments. She'd been played. Again. I need to talk to Kieran, she said. He's in the training yard. Been there for hours, working off his feelings by beating up training dummies. Miriam smiled. Go to him, Your Majesty. Truth shared is better than suspicion harbored. Sera found Kieran exactly where Miriam said, drenched in sweat and fury. He destroyed at least a dozen training dummies, their remains scattered across the yard. When he saw her, he stopped mid-strike. Sera. We need to talk. Properly. She stepped into the yard. No shields. No hiding. Complete honesty. Kieran nodded and dropped his defenses. Through the bond, Sera felt everything. His love for her, his fear of losing her, his anger at his ancestors for making this possible, his helplessness in the face of her doubt. "I'm sorry," he said. "I'm sorry my family's history is so tainted. I'm sorry I didn't warn you more explicitly about the bond's darker possibilities. But Sera, I swear on the moon itself, I have never manipulated you. Every decision you've made has been yours. The only thing I've done through this bond is love you." Sera felt the truth of his words resonating. Damien planted that journal. Miriam detected shadow magic on it. Kieran's eyes blazed. Of course he did. And I fell right into his trap by not being completely transparent from the start. If I'd told you everything about the Guardian Bond's history, if I'd shown you how it's been abused before, maybe you would have trusted me when the journal appeared. Maybe. Or maybe I would have refused the bond entirely, and we'd both be weaker for it. Sera stepped closer. I understand now why your ancestors did what they did. Some queens really were dangerous. But Kieran, I need to know, if I made a decision you thought was catastrophic, would you override me? He hesitated, clearly wrestling with honesty versus reassurance. Finally, if you were about to do something that would kill thousands of innocent people, destroy the territories, or erase Shifter existence, yes, I would stop you even if it meant using the bond. But short of that? Never. I'd argue, advise, try to convince you otherwise, but I'd respect your choices even if I disagreed. That's all I needed to hear. Sera took his hands. I don't want a partner who'll just rubber stamp my decisions. I want someone who'll challenge me when I'm wrong, support me when I'm right, and trust me to know the difference. Can you do that? Yes. And Sera, can you trust me? Really trust me even knowing what my family has done? She looked into his golden eyes, feeling the bond between them, the love and loyalty flowing through it. Yes. I trust you, Kieran Ashborne. Yes. I trust you, Kieran Ashborne. Not because I'm naive but because I choose to. And if you ever betray that trust, the moon will make you pay, but I'll make you hurt first. He laughed, relief flooding through their bond. Fair enough. I'd expect nothing less from my queen. They kissed, and the bond flared bright and strong, the cracks Damien had tried to create sealing shut. When they pulled apart, Sera's expression turned calculating. We need to deal with Blackthorn. He's not going to stop trying to undermine us. Agreed. But we have to be smart about it. We can't just execute him, that would make him a martyr and prove we're tyrants. Kieran's tactical mind was already working. We need to expose him. Show the entire council what he's doing. How? A slow smile spread across Kieran's face. By giving him exactly what he wants, an opportunity to strike. And when he does, we'll be ready. 3 days later, the High Council convened for what was supposed to be a routine session on trade agreements. Sera sat on her throne with Kieran at her side, their unified front obvious to all present. Damien attended, his expression carefully neutral, but Sera could sense his frustration through the subtle tells she'd learned to read. Before we begin regular business, Sera announced, I want to address the rumors that have been circulating. Yes, the consort and I had a disagreement. Yes, it was serious, but we resolved it through honest communication, something I hope this council will always practice. She stood, letting her power radiate. I also want to address attempts to sabotage the convergence. Someone has been planting false information, trying to turn me against my mate. This ends now. Damien's expression didn't change, but Sera caught the slight tensing of his shoulders. I'm invoking an ancient right, Sera continued. Trial by truth. Any member of this council may be subject to examination under the moon's light, which reveals lies and deception. The magic is absolute. No one can hide falsehood when the lunar source judges them. Murmurs rippled through the council. Trial by truth hadn't been used in over a century. Who will you examine, Your Majesty? Alpha Grayson asked. Everyone. Starting with me. Sera stepped down from the dais. I want every member of this council to know I have nothing to hide. Kieran will go second. And then, one by one, each of you will stand in the light and answer questions. Those with nothing to hide have nothing to fear. She moved to the center of the chamber, where moonlight streamed through a circular opening in the ceiling. As she stood in the beam, silver light enveloped her. Ask your questions, she said. Elder Thorn, serving as neutral examiner, spoke first. Have you been manipulated by the consort through the mate bond? No, Sera answered, and the light pulsed bright, confirmation of truth. Have you made any decisions that were not your own? No. Another pulse. Do you serve the territories faithfully without hidden agenda? Yes. The light blazed. Sera stepped out and Kieran took her place. The same questions were asked, the same truthful answers given. One by one, council members were examined, some nervously, others with confidence. All passed. Until it was Damien's turn. He approached the light with his characteristic arrogance, but Sera noticed sweat beading his forehead. Have you worked to undermine the Queen's rule? Thorn asked. No, Damien said. The light flickered and died. What? Gasps echoed through the chamber. Damien's eyes widened with panic. Let me rephrase, Thorn said, his voice hard. Have you attempted to sabotage the convergence? Damien clenched his jaw. Under the moon's compulsion he couldn't lie. Yes. Did you plant false evidence to create discord between the Queen and consort? Yes. Have you been working to destabilize the dynasty? Yes. The word was torn from Damien's throat, his control breaking. Yes, because you don't deserve this throne. Your family was weak, trusting, foolish. Mine had the strength to lead and we were cast aside. I've spent my life preparing to take what should have been ours. The chamber erupted. Council members shouted in outrage. Guards moved forward, but Sera held up her hand. Enough. Her voice cut through the chaos. Damien Blackthorn, you stand condemned by your own words and the moon's judgment. The penalty for attempting to destroy a ruling dynasty is death or exile. I choose exile. Damien's head snapped up. What? You're banished from the territories. Take your loyal followers and go. Build whatever life you can beyond our borders. But if you ever return, if you ever threaten my people again, there will be no mercy. Sera's eyes blazed silver. I won't create a martyr for future generations to rally behind. Instead, you'll be a cautionary tale, the alpha who lost everything because he couldn't accept change. You're making a mistake, Damien snarled. Showing mercy to your enemies is what strong rulers do. Take your defeat, Damien. It's over. Guards escorted him from the chamber, his furious shouts fading. The remaining council members looked at Sera with new respect. She'd exposed the traitor and handled the situation with both justice and wisdom. This is what the new dynasty stands for, Sera said to the assembled group. Truth. Mercy where possible, but consequences when necessary. We will not rule through fear, but we will not tolerate those who seek to destroy what we're building. Does anyone else wish to confess before we continue? Silence. Then Lady Moira stood. I was part of the Iron Alliance, she said quietly. I opposed your claim initially. But your Majesty, what you've demonstrated today, the transparency, the fair judgment, the mercy balanced with strength, this is leadership I can follow. I pledge my complete loyalty with no reservations. One by one, the other former Iron Alliance members stood and echoed her pledge. The council that had been fractured was finally, truly united. That night, Sera and Kieran stood on their balcony, watching the moon rise over the valley. You surprised me today, Kieran said. I expected you to execute him. Killing him would have proven his point, that the dynasty rules through violence and fear. Exile proves we're different. Sera leaned against him. Besides, he's not the real threat. He's just a symptom of deeper problems. Resentment, fear of change, attachment to old grudges. We need to address those roots, not just hack away at the branches. You're wise beyond your years, you know that? I have good ancestors and a good partner. She turned in his arms. Speaking of which, the coronation is tomorrow. Are you ready? Are you? This makes it official. No more trial periods or provisional authority. Tomorrow you become the uncontested queen. Sera thought about the journey that had brought her here, from a quiet librarian to ruler of an entire supernatural society. It was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. I'm ready, she said. With you beside me, I can face anything. Then let's make history, Kieran murmured against her lips. Together. Chapter 11. The dawn of Coronation Day broke clear and bright, the sun rising over the valley like a benediction. Sera woke wrapped in Kieran's arms, feeling the steady pulse of their bond, a constant reminder that she wasn't facing this alone. Big day, he murmured, his eyes still closed. The biggest. Sera traced patterns on his chest. How do you think your ancestors would feel about today? About a Nightshade finally reclaiming the throne? I think they'd be honored to see the prophecy fulfilled. And maybe a little terrified of you. Kieran opened his eyes, golden and warm. You're not like the queens they served. You're stronger, fiercer, more independent. You don't need a guardian to control you, you need a partner who can keep up. Lucky for me, I found one. She kissed him softly. Now get up. Miriam will have my head if we're late to our own coronation. The palace bustled with activity. Staff rushed through halls carrying ceremonial regalia, flowers, and supplies for the feast that would follow. Sera was swept away by attendants who dressed her in robes of silver and midnight blue, the colors of the Lunar dynasty. The fabric shimmered with woven moonlight, an effect achieved through ancient magic that had been lost and recently rediscovered. Miriam supervised every detail with the precision of a general commanding troops. "The crown," she said, presenting a silver circlet adorned with moonstones. "Worn by every Nightshade queen since the dynasty's founding. Queen Ravenna wore this when she died defending her children." Sera touched it reverently, feeling the echoes of power within. When Miriam placed it on her head, the weight was both literal and metaphorical. The burden of leadership, the responsibility for thousands of lives. "You look every inch a queen," Miriam said with satisfaction. "Now let's go claim your throne officially." The coronation took place in the great courtyard, where thousands had gathered. Every pack in the territory sent representatives. Even some alphas from neighboring regions attended, curious to witness the return of the legendary dynasty. The ceremony was a blend of ancient ritual and new tradition. Sera walked a path lined with representatives from each house, who bowed as she passed. She climbed the steps to a platform where the throne had been moved for the occasion, Kieran walking beside her wearing the dark robes of a guardian consort. Elder Thorn conducted the ceremony, his voice magically amplified to reach the entire crowd. "We gather to witness the coronation of Sera Nightshade, rightful heir to the Lunar dynasty, proven through trial and blood. She has passed the tests of ascension. She has bonded with her guardian. She has shown wisdom, mercy, and strength. All that remains is the oath." Sera faced the assembled crowd, feeling the weight of their expectations, their hopes, their fears. She spoke the words that had been spoken by queens for over a millennium. "I, Sera Nightshade, do solemnly swear to serve the territories and all pacts therein. I vow to rule with wisdom and compassion, to protect the weak and honor the strong, to preserve our way of life while guiding us toward a better future. I pledge my power, my life, and my soul to this duty. From this day until my last breath, I am yours. I am your queen." The moon, visible even in daylight, seemed to pulse with approval. Silver light cascaded down, enveloping Sera in a column of power that everyone could see. The coronation wasn't just ceremonial, the moon itself was acknowledging her right to rule. "All hail Queen Serafina!" Thorn's voice rang out. "All hail!" Thousands of voices roared in response. The sound was deafening, overwhelming, beautiful. Kieran knelt before her and she placed her hand on his head, a gesture of partnership, not dominance. "Rise, guardian consort," she said. "Stand beside me as my equal, my partner, my heart." He stood, and together they faced their people as the crowd's cheers shook the very foundations of the palace. The feast that followed was magnificent. Long tables laden with food stretched across multiple courtyards. Music filled the air, traditional pack songs mixed with newer compositions celebrating the dynasty's return. Wolves from rival houses mingled, tentatively building bridges that had been burned for generations. Sera moved through the crowd, speaking with representatives, hearing concerns, making promises she intended to keep. She met elderly wolves who remembered the old dynasty, their tears of joy at seeing a Nightshade crowned again. She met young wolves born in the chaos after the fall, who'd never known stability and were hungry for it. "You're giving them hope," Kieran observed as they took a brief respite in a quiet corner. "Real hope for the first time in their lives. I just hope I can live up to it." Sera watched the celebration, feeling the enormity of her task. "There's so much to do: rebuild institutions, reform laws, heal old wounds, prepare for new threats. Sometimes I wonder if I'm really ready for this." "You're not." At her startled look, Kieran smiled. "No one ever is. Being ready means you've done it before, and true leadership is always uncharted territory. But you're capable, Sera. You're surrounded by people who believe in you. And you have me. Always." She leaned into him, drawing strength from their bond. "Thank you. For everything. For believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. For being my anchor when everything felt overwhelming. For loving me. Loving you is the easiest thing I've ever done." Kieran kissed her forehead. "Now come on. Your people want to see their queen enjoying her own party." As the celebration continued into the night, Sera found herself dancing with Kieran under the stars. The bond between them sang with joy, with love, with perfect unity. Looking around at the faces illuminated by firelight, faces that were smiling, hopeful, united, she felt a profound sense of rightness. This was what her ancestors had died for. This moment of peace and possibility. The dynasty hadn't just returned, it had been reborn, stronger and wiser for the trials it had endured. Alpha Grayson approached with a goblet raised. A toast. To Queen Seraphina and consort Kieran. May their reign be long, their justice swift, and their love eternal. To the Queen, the crowd roared. Sera raised her own goblet, tears of happiness streaming down her face. To all of you. To the Pax who believed in me, who gave me a chance, who chose unity over division. This isn't my dynasty, it's ours. Together, we'll build something that will last another 1,000 years. The cheers were deafening. Late that night, when the last guests had departed and the palace finally fell quiet, Sera and Kieran returned to their chambers. She was exhausted but exhilarated, running on adrenaline and happiness. I can't believe it's real, she said, collapsing onto their bed. I'm actually the queen. This actually happened. Believe it? You earned every bit of this. Kieran joined her, pulling her close. And tomorrow the real work begins, governing, dealing with day-to-day pack politics, building the future you promised. Tomorrow, Sera agreed. But tonight I just want to be with my mate. No politics, no duty, no grand destiny. Just us. I can do that. Kieran's smile was tender. Though I have to say, watching you today, seeing you command the respect of thousands, witnessing you step fully into your power, it was the most attractive thing I've ever seen. My queen. My powerful, brilliant, beautiful queen. And you're my strength. My wisdom. My heart. Sera kissed him deeply, pouring all her love and gratitude through their bond. I meant what I said earlier, you're my equal, Kieran. Not my subject, not my servant. My partner in everything. I know. And that's why this will work when so many past pairings failed. We choose each other every day. Not because of prophecy or duty, but because we want to. He cradled her face. I choose you, Sera Nightshade. Today, tomorrow, and every day after. I choose you too, Kieran Ashborne. Forever. They made love slowly, tenderly, the bond between them glowing brighter than ever. And as they drifted off to sleep in each other's arms, the moon shone down on them through the window. A blessing, a promise, and a confirmation that the dynasty was exactly where it needed to be. Chapter 12. 6 months after the coronation, the territories were almost unrecognizable. Sera stood in the newly renovated council chamber, reviewing reports with satisfaction. The High Council had proven remarkably effective. Representatives from all houses working together to solve problems that had festered for generations. Trade routes had been secured. Territorial disputes had been mediated peacefully. Even the most skeptical houses were beginning to see the benefits of unity. The Eastern Territories report a 70% reduction in border conflicts, Marcus announced, presenting the latest statistics. The Joint Patrol Initiative is working better than expected. And the education program? Sera asked. Enrollment is at capacity, Lady Moira reported. Young wolves from different packs learning together, forming bonds that will last their entire lives. In one generation we'll have leaders who grew up with cooperation, not competition. Alpha Grayson chuckled. I never thought I'd see the day when a Stormwolf pup and a Shadalpine pup were best friends. But my grandson talks about his Shadalpine buddy constantly. Times really are changing. Sera smiled, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. This was what she'd envisioned, not just restoration of the old dynasty, but creation of something better. What about the Blackthorn situation? She asked. Any word from the exiled? Last report placed Damien in the northern wilds, trying to establish a rogue pack, Kieran said from his position at her side. He's gained maybe 30 followers, but they're struggling. Without the resources and structure of the territories, survival is difficult. I don't think he'll pose a threat again. Don't underestimate him, Sera warned. Desperate wolves are dangerous. Keep monitoring. Already on it. The council session continued, addressing various matters of governance. Sera found herself marveling at how natural this had become, leading, making decisions, balancing competing interests. She'd grown into her role, and the territories had flourished because of it. After the session, she and Kieran walked through the palace gardens, which had been fully restored to their former glory. Flowers bloomed in impossible profusion, their growth encouraged by the lunar magic that saturated the palace grounds. Penny for your thoughts? Kieran asked. I'm thinking about legacy, Sera said. About what we're building here. My ancestors ruled through power and wisdom, but they were isolated. They didn't truly share authority. That's why the dynasty was vulnerable. And you're determined not to repeat that mistake. Exactly. I want to create something that doesn't depend on a single bloodline. The High Council should be able to function even without a ruling queen. Laws should be stable and just regardless of who sits on the throne. That's real stability. Kieran was quiet for a moment. You're already thinking about succession. About what happens after you're gone. I have to. Queens die, Kieran. Dynasties fall. But institutions, properly built, can last forever. She stopped walking and turned to him. Which brings me to something important. Something I've been waiting for the right moment to tell you. His eyes widened as he caught her meaning through the bond. Sera, are you saying? I'm pregnant. She placed his hand on her still flat stomach. About 2 months along. I wanted to be sure before I told you. Joy exploded through their bond so intense it made Sera dizzy. Kieran swept her into his arms, spinning her around while laughing with pure delight. We're having a baby, he said, awe in his voice. An heir. The dynasty continues. Not just an heir, a child. Our child. Who will grow up in a stable, peaceful world because we fought to create it. Sera's eyes sparkled with happy tears. And who will, hopefully, do an even better job than we did. Kieran set her down gently, cupping her face. You're going to be an amazing mother. Our child will be so loved, so supported, so prepared for whatever comes. We'll do better than our ancestors, Sera promised. We'll raise them to be strong but compassionate, powerful but humble, proud of their heritage but not imprisoned by it. And we'll make sure they know, the throne is a responsibility, not a prize. A chance to serve, not to dominate. Speaking of the future, Kieran said, his expression turning thoughtful. I've been working on something. A project I want your approval for before proceeding. What kind of project? He led her to a quieter section of the garden, where a stone monument stood. Sera recognized it, the memorial to wolves who died during the dynasty's fall, erected centuries ago and maintained by the Ashborne line. I want to expand this, Kieran said. Create a true memorial garden honoring everyone who sacrificed for the territories, the queens who died defending their people, the guardians who kept faith through dark times, the ordinary wolves who fought for what they believed in, even those who opposed us but acted with honor. Sera's throat tightened with emotion. Including those from the Iron Alliance? Especially them. They were wrong, but they believed they were protecting the territories in their own way. That deserves acknowledgement. Kieran's hand found hers. I want our child to grow up knowing that history is complicated, that good people can disagree, and that honor exists on all sides of conflict. It's perfect, Sera whispered. Absolutely perfect. Do it. They stood together in the garden, planning the memorial, discussing the future, and basking in the joy of new life growing between them. The bond between them was stronger than ever, not the controlling, manipulative connection of past guardians and queens, but a true partnership built on love, trust, and mutual respect. That evening, Sera addressed the palace staff and closest advisors with an announcement. The dynasty has been restored, but more importantly, it has been reborn. We're not recreating what was, we're building something new, something better. And today, I'm honored to share news that symbolizes that future. The consort and I are expecting our first child. Cheers erupted. Miriam wept openly. Marcus clapped Kieran on the back so hard he stumbled. The joy was infectious and genuine. This child will be raised to understand their role, Sera continued. Not as a ruler above the people but as a servant to them. Not as a source of power but as a steward of it. And whether they choose to accept the throne when the time comes, because yes, it will be their choice, they'll know what it means to lead with wisdom and humility. And love, Kieran added, pulling Sera close. Above all, with love. For their people, their pack, their heritage, and the future. The celebration that followed was intimate and warm, not the grand spectacle of the coronation but a family gathering. Because that's what the palace had become, a family united by purpose and affection. Late that night, Sera stood in the throne room alone, looking at the silver chair that had been empty for 3 centuries. She thought of Ravenna, dying to save her children. Of all the queens who'd sat here, carrying impossible burdens. Of the weight of expectation and responsibility. But she also thought of the High Council working together to solve problems. Of young wolves from rival packs becoming friends. Of a future where her child would grow up in peace, not chaos. Of Kieran's unwavering support and love. The burden was heavy, yes. But it was bearable. Because she wasn't carrying it alone. There you are, Kieran's voice came from the doorway. I should have known you'd be here, having a contemplative moment with your throne. Just thinking about how far we've come, Sera said. 3 months ago, I was a librarian who didn't even know I was a wolf. Now I'm a queen, a mate, and soon to be a mother. It's surreal. Life has a way of surprising us. Kieran joined her, wrapping his arms around her from behind, his hands coming to rest on her stomach. But I have to say, you've handled every surprise with grace and strength. I couldn't be prouder of you. We did it together, Sera corrected. Guardian and heir. Partners. Exactly as the prophecy intended. 2 souls, 2 houses, bound by fate, Kieran quoted. The prophecy was right. We were meant for this. Meant for each other. Sera turned in his arms, looking up at the man who'd become her everything. I love you, Kieran Ashborne. Thank you for finding me in that forest. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for being exactly what I needed, exactly when I needed it. I love you too, Sera Nightshade. My queen. My mate. My heart. And I promise, from this day until my last breath, I will stand beside you, support you, love you, and protect what we've built together. They kissed, and through their bond, power flowed, lunar magic intertwined with alpha strength, creating something unique and beautiful. The convergence that had saved the dynasty fulfilled the prophecy, and given the territories hope for the future. Outside, the full moon rose over the valley, its light bathing the palace in silver. The dynasty had returned. The bloodline would continue. And for the first time in 3 centuries the territories were at peace. Not because of one powerful queen ruling through fear, but because of 2 souls, united by love and purpose, choosing every day to serve their people with wisdom, compassion, and strength. The dynasty was reborn. And its greatest days were still ahead. 25 years later, Princess Sera Ashborne Nightshade stood in the throne room, her silver eyes, inherited from her mother, taking in the assembled high council. At 24 she'd just completed her own trials of ascension, proving herself worthy to eventually take her mother's throne. But unlike queens of old, she hadn't done it alone. Her younger siblings, twins Damon and Luna, had stood with her, supporting her every step. Because that's how their parents had raised them. Together, not in competition. The council recognizes Princess Sera as heir apparent, Elder Marcus announced, still serving after 2.5 decades, now with silver streaking his hair. When the time comes for succession, she has been proven worthy. Thank you, Sera said, her voice carrying the same command as her mother's. But I want to make something clear. When I eventually take the throne, and Mom, I hope that's many, many years from now, I won't rule alone. My siblings will serve as co-regents, sharing authority and responsibility. The dynasty's strength comes from unity, not singular power. From their seats at the side of the chamber, Queen Serafina and Guardian Kieran exchanged proud glances. Their daughter had learned well. After the council session, the royal family gathered in the private gardens. Now 3 generations with Sera's mother-in-law Miriam doting on her great-grandchildren. You did well today, Sera told Sera. Your grandmother Ravenna would be proud. So would your grandfather Theron, Kieran added, ruffling his son Damon's hair. The dynasty doesn't just survive, it thrives. That's your generation's inheritance. And we won't waste it, Sera promised. She looked at her parents, seeing the love and partnership that still burned bright after 25 years. You showed us how to do this right. How to be strong without being cruel, how to lead without dominating, how to love without losing yourself. We'll honor that legacy. Sera felt tears prick her eyes. This moment, with her family healthy and happy, the territories at peace, the future bright with possibility, this was the dream. The prophecy fulfilled not just in power but in hope. The dynasty sleeps, but it never dies, she murmured, echoing her grandmother's words. It doesn't need to sleep anymore, Kieran said, pulling her close. Because now it's awake. And it will never fall again. As the sun set over the valley and the moon began its nightly rise, the royal family stood together. 3 generations united by blood, by love, and by an unshakable commitment to the territories they served. The Lunar dynasty had been restored. The prophecy had been fulfilled. And the greatest legacy of all, a future built on love, wisdom, and unity, stretched endlessly before them. Some legacies sleep for centuries, waiting for love to awaken them. Others burn bright, lighting the way for generations to come. The Nightshade dynasty would do both, remembering its past while building its future, one day at a time, one decision at a time, one act of love at a time. And that was the most powerful magic of all. The end.